more hated than who speaks the truth. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is Sri Lanka's current political climate with an emphasis on the upcoming provincial council polls. Joining us this evening on the show are Chris Balthazar, Municipal Council, Devil Mountain Municipal Council. Also joining us tonight on the show is Pradeep Jayawardena, Municipal Councillor of Colombo, Rehan Jayawickrama, Chairman of the Valigam Urban Council, as well as Mahesh Senanayake, representative of the United National Party. All four of them have earmarked themselves as candidates for the upcoming provincial council elections. In the event, nominations are given out to them, so we'll have to wait and see how the parties will roll out their nomination plans in the coming few weeks, coming few months. But before that, let's talk about Sri Lanka's current political climate as well as their plans for the upcoming provincial council polls. Let's start off tonight's show with Rehan Jayawickrama, Chairman of the Valigam Urban Council. Rehan, interestingly, 1 year since the formation of the Samagga Jana Balawegaya, how is your leadership taking up this big step towards its first anniversary and also looking at the provincial council elections in the longer run?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I think this is my fourth time on the show. I mean, when you think about the Samagga Jana Balawegaya and where we came from, you have to understand that our main party that we split from was obviously the United National Party. That being said, we created a record this time. You know, there are a lot of downsides to certain ways in which the election was handled, but we became the party that started off, for example, when we went in for the election, we didn't have a single committee that was formed. We didn't have any of our youth groups formed. We only had two people in the party with leadership positions, which was Sajith Premadasa and Ranjith Madhu Bandara. Sajith Premadasa as leader and Ranjith Madhu Bandara as general secretary. None of the other positions were even filled. So with that being said, we managed to get a sizable chunk of the vote. It was obviously not enough. We only managed to get about 52 MPs in, but Sajith Premadasa managed to get the highest amount of votes that a UMP candidate had got at an election. Obviously, it could have been better if we were together with the UMP because there was a number of very strong UMPers who chose not to join the SJB and they ran with the UMP. So if we had them in our camp, obviously it could have been substantially better. But to be very honest with you, we actually did try. If you remember, I was one of the first people to write a letter to the leader asking him to step down and give the leadership to Sajith Premadasa. I didn't ask him to retire from politics. I didn't ask him to retire from the leadership of the party. I told him to make Sajith Premadasa the candidate of the party. So that was said exactly 1 year before the presidential election was held. So I think if they actually listened to us at that time, because we and I think many of the other politicians here today, we represent the grassroots, which is far more important in my opinion than parliamentary level politics, because we are the ones who actually deal with the grassroots level of a village. So we obviously thought, you know, that together we could do better, but our calls were not heard and we had to go alone. But I think that we did a good job. I think our first anniversary today was held. We obviously couldn't have it as big as what we would have liked because of social regulations, is health regulations. But I think we did a good job, and I think in the future, in the elections that are coming up, I think the Samagga Jana Balawegaya will perform even better.
One of the notable absentees at today's event was General Secretary of your party, Ranjith Madhu Bandara.
Yes.
Was there an issue or is he under the weather?
No, I think he is a bit under the weather these days and he was resting. Okay. If not, he was one of the pivotal members that actually started the Samagga Jana Balawegaya.
Right.
So
let's talk about the sugar scam that everyone is talking about right now, Rehan. So let's get into the ball rolling right at the start itself. The government is of the opinion that there's nothing wrong with the sugar scam as stated by the opposition MPs. However, one of your MPs, Dr. Harsha De Silva, said that over 15 billion has been lost to the state as a result of 15.9 billion has been lost as a result of the sugar scam. What exactly went wrong?
You know, them saying that they have nothing to do with this scam and that, you know, it's not going to cause a loss to the government. It's the same as us saying back in the day that the bond scam wouldn't affect the government. So this is the same thing, but the magnitude is much higher. Now, if you look at the history of even what Harsha De Silva said, there was a gazette which was issued 2197/12. That was the gazette which effectively had the biggest tax cut in history. I mean, there have been times where the taxes were reduced, but how they reduced this tax was, it was called the Special Commodity Levy, also known as SCL. So they reduced it in a way that has never been done before, and the orders came directly to the finance ministry from the presidential secretariat. So at this time, I'm not going to point fingers and say who did it, because obviously there's going to be an investigation into this, because just the way the bond scam affected us, this is what's going to affect them. Now, if you look at the way the tax structure was done, not only was this the biggest cut in history, but the reason that they gave for the tax reduction was they said that they wanted the price of loose sugar to come down, that will benefit the consumers. So that was the reason they reduced his tax. Now this tax cut was not a normal tax cut. It was, what they did was they brought it down from 50 rupees all the way up till 25 cents. So you can imagine what a huge tax cut that was. That was from 50 rupees all the way up till 25 cents. Now when they did that, what we have to understand is that there are two types of warehouses. One is bonded warehousing and the other is normal warehousing. Now for bonded warehouses, when you put in or when you get down the sugar, you don't immediately pay the tax. You keep it stored in the warehouse, and only when you are taking it out of the warehouse do you pay the existing tax. So this sugar mainly was bought into these bonded warehouses paying the 50 rupee tax. Right? It was, sorry, not paying the 50 rupee tax, they were bought down, not paying any taxes because of the fact that it's a bonded warehouse. Now, the other type of warehouse is a normal warehousing, where when you get where as soon as the sugar or whatever the product is that comes to the port, you have to pay it directly then and there, the tax, and then you put it into your normal warehouse. Now, it's very interesting to note how much sugar was actually in these warehouses. Now, there was a total of 90,000 metric tons stored in these warehouses the time that this tax reduction was done. Now, out of that, 8,500 metric tons were bought by this one company. I'm not going to mention any names here because obviously this is going to go even further and I don't want to mess around with the investigations. But one company actually bought down 8,500 metric tons which was stored in their bonded warehouse. So they basically ended up paying only 25 cents for that. Now the sugar prices, now they were hoping for a huge reduction. No? Their basis for getting this tax cut was they said they wanted to give the sugar at a lower price. Now the sugar was reduced only to 115 rupees from 135 or 125. It was reduced to 115 all the way up from September 2020 to February 2021. So that was all that there was. They were hoping for it to be about in the 75 to the 80s to the 90s range, but they kept it at 115 rupees. Now you have to understand that out of this whole lot, there were 7 companies that bought down the sugar. There were only 7. Now out of that 7, how the tally went was that one company bought down 40% of the total volume, which was 125,000 metric tons. This is the new lot they bought. Now the others in comparison bought down 36,000 metric tons, 27,000, 27,000 again, 21,000, 18,000 and 14,000. And altogether that amounted to 85% of the total market percentage at that time. Now the interesting story is like what Harsha said, is that this is the biggest bulk of sugar to arrive in the country after 20 years. They were not singular containers, they were ships of sugar coming in. Right? Biggest in 20 years. Now our economy has always been much worse in the past, but in 20 years this was the biggest lot that came down. Now subsequently the finance ministry gave their report very recently in Parliament, and they have clearly mentioned that even though the prices that they were hoping to came down a little bit, that the consumer didn't benefit from this, that it was more so the selected companies or the suppliers. The price of loose sugar also did go down, but that also didn't have the desired effect. Now how this loss is calculated is, the final loss, how the 15.9 billion is calculated, is that 320 million kilos. 320 million kilos were bought down, and the funny thing is that some paid the tax of 50 rupees, which they had to pay the normal warehousing because that was the rate there. But the others who got it down paid this 25 cent tax. Now the total loss in tax when you compare all this turns out to be 15.9 billion rupees. So I think the bond scam was 7 or 8 billion rupees. This was 15.9 billion rupees.
Rehan, I just want to interrupt you for a second here before I move on to Pradeep. So one of the arguments that is being brought forward by the government is the fact that when you are reducing taxes on a particular consignment of maybe sugar, maybe rice, maybe dal, maybe potatoes, maybe sugar for an example, there are losers as well as winners. So fortunately, unfortunately, there are more winners when this happened rather than having losers. So you can buy that argument.
You really can't buy that argument, because how are they going to explain who the winners are and who the losers are? Now all that we know is that because of this reduction in tax, it has cost the treasury 15.9 billion in taxes. Now that is the amount that has to be taken away from the treasury. Now if there was nothing wrong with this, why was Nushad Perera removed? That is my question. Why is it that within a few hours or a few days or a week, why was Nushad Perera removed? Because Nushad Perera was a presidential appointee. He was not someone who was a SLA's officer or anything like that. He was a political appointee and he was immediately removed. Right. Now the funny thing is that when you think about this in comparison, the Oxford, the Zeneca vaccine, which is priced at $5 per dose from India, which equals to about, let's say $1 is 200, that equals about 1,000 rupees a dose. That into 15 million doses is 15 billion rupees. So in comparison, 15 million doses could have been bought at the amount that the government lost out on taxes.
Right, okay, thanks a lot, Rehan Javed, Chairman of the Velikam Urban Council. I want to move our attention to Pradeep Jayawardene, the Municipal Councillor of Colombo. Pradeep, how is the Sri Lanka Freedom Party now faring ahead of an upcoming election? Because we heard President Gotabaya Rajapaksa saying that the process in which the elections should be held should be expedited, and we have to move towards holding a provincial council election soon in the country. How is the SLFP faring right now?
I think there is a lot of interest and excitement within the SLFP about the upcoming elections, because there's a lot of thinking within the SLFP itself that the lack of having the elected representatives in the provincial councils is has a great effect on what is happening at the grassroots level of the country, because the elected representatives actually solve a lot of the issues that should not come to the central government. At the moment, all these issues are coming to the central government, and the central government has to deal with them. Many of these will be resolved if the provincial councils are in place. So the SLFP's thinking is it is very timely, and the councils should be established as soon as possible. That's one side of it. Yeah. On the other side of it, as you know, SLFP is a political organization, and there are many people in the political structure who will want to contest and take those positions. So it is something, if it is not there, those people, those politicians are, don't have positions and are out of work basically.
Yeah, so Pradeep, we always have to speak about the country before self. We have to stop thinking about politicians and what they want to be or what they want to become in the country, rather than the focus should really be the country per se. Do you agree on that?
No, yes, I agree. So that is why I said that many of the issues that we are facing in the country today, if you take the agriculture or you take the healthcare, there are many issues that are coming up, and we are seeing this on the news a lot. Many of those will be resolved if the provincial council system and the provincial councils are in place.
So but we have done well without the provincial council elections during the last few months. Why must we start spending money on provincial councils and have an election at a time? We're talking about social regulations and social distancing and all that and more.
Why do you say we have done well? If you talk to the general public today, there is a very great sense of that things are not effective, not being implemented, and that not enough is happening in the field. And many of this is the result of the lack of taking away of the provincial councils, because the provincial councils have been there for the last 25 years, and they have been a vital part of government. It's a part of a layer of, you take entire layer of government out, there's a vacuum, and for a while it will run, and you think the central government can handle it, but the central government cannot handle many of these issues. They have to be there. So you must remember that you must remember that devolution has happened in this country, and if you take that layer of government out, there's a vacuum. You may not feel it immediately because the officials will keep things going, but when decisions have to be taken at the political level, those decisions are not being taken.
Because so, we saw the statement made by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa came after his discussion with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Hours after the meeting over telephone with the President, Prime Minister of India, the President makes his statement saying that provincial council elections should be expedited. So are we holding the elections on the whim and fancy of the Indian government?
That may be the last straw that broke the camel's back, but I think that he has been under tremendous pressure from the political structures of the SLFP as well as SLPP to hold the provincial council elections. So I think it is not just one thing. I think he came to a final decision because he also realized that many of the issues that are facing the country has to be addressed through the provincial council system.
So how will the SLFP position itself at the upcoming elections? Is the party going to contest independently, or is it going to join hands with the troubled SLPP at the moment?
We are in an alliance, and we will work with the alliance to contest in the provincial council election. There is no talk of contesting separately. We will contest together. Of course, I think you are talking about the fact that there is a lot of discussion about issues that
rather than discussions, animosity between the two parties.
Not
right
animosity.
Now.
We have taken a policy decision that we will criticize and we will provide constructive criticism to issues that are coming up and issues that we see are problematic. So, but there is no talk of contesting separately. We are firmly in alliance, and we will contest together as an alliance.
Because if you looked at the last parliamentary elections, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party had to contest certain districts independently, the SLFP. One of the districts was the Kaludara district, for an example. So will that happen this time as well if the SLFP nomination list is rejected by Basil Rajapaksa?
Yeah, I think those were anomalies. On the whole, we contested together as an alliance, and I don't see why we should contest separately, because we are an alliance, and this alliance has been now recognized by the voting public. So we feel that there is no reason to go it alone. There's no, we don't see a justification at the moment.
The sugar scam right now, Pradeep, people's eyes are right now fixed towards one particular issue, and that particular issue is a sugar scam in the country. I recollect in 2015 when the Yahapalani government was appointed, we were talking about the central bank bond controversy. Now we're talking about the sugar scam. It seems that everyone is the same, and there are no politicians that the Sri Lankan people can rely on, because all of them are acting in the same manner in which what they want to do, filling their pockets, isn't it?
I see it differently. I think Sri Lankan people are very good entrepreneurs, so when they see an opportunity, they will take advantage of it. And whenever you shift from a high tax or to a low tax, or you have a low tax and you go to a higher tax, there are many people who are insiders, and they will take advantage of that opportunity. You take the duty-free vehicles. You take even the fact, if you take the vaccination program, the fact that you're offering a vaccination program, and the fact that there is a limited amount of vaccines and the tremendous demand for it, it creates opportunity. There are various things that take place which shouldn't happen. So that is how I see it. You know, whenever
I'm trying to get into your mind right now, because I'm trying to figure out, when you say entrepreneurs and someone trying to make money or trying to make a quick buck at the expense of the public is two different things.
I was being frivolous in saying that. What I'm saying is that whenever you create an opportunity, the moment you change taxation of a vital consumer product like sugar, or you increase or decrease, then it creates an opportunity for businessmen to make. They will take that opportunity and make money out of it. Yes, the government should try to avoid it. But what I'm saying is that by the very nature of it, the moment you move these things, you get. I'll give you an example. In Germany, there is a tax called the Movenpick called the Move-and-Pick tax in Germany, because the Move-and-Pick hotel chain, the business people, they managed to implement a tax which they say that the German public lost an enormous amount of money, so they call it the Move-and-Pick tax. But so this type of thing happens all over the world.
Probably Germany can afford it, but Sri Lanka can't afford it. That's the problem.
No country can afford to lose money like that. So the governments have to be very careful when you change existing tax structures. You always create these opportunities. So you have to be very careful when you do that.
But the allegation leveled by the opposition is the fact that exorbitant amount of sugar was being brought to the country. This is the first time in 20 years that such a big quantity of sugar came into the country, and as a result of that, only a few companies or one company made a quick buck out of this, and it very clearly is pointed directly at the government, that the government was trying to support or trying to manipulate it for the whim and fancy of one organization.
No, I think you can easily then take this and build a story out of it, because you can say this was done for a particular individual or a particular company. But if you take any product, for example, you take coconut, you take coconut oil. From time to time we have shortages of coconut and the coconut prices go up. So what does the government do? The government allows import of coconut oil from oil, vegetable oil. What happens is traders take the advantage of the window and import massive quantities of coconut oil, which then they release to the market over the next so many years. So they beat the system. So what I'm saying, this is a situation like that. The company realized
you make everyone look white collar crime to be as simple as this.
Well, then you must find out whether this was done intentionally, whether this was how it was done, whether it is insider trading. I mean, the stock
controversies also should be swept under the carpet.
No, I don't agree. You know the stock. Then find the people and bring them to book. I'm with you. That it is like the stock market. For example, if somebody knows stock is going to go up, they go and buy. Today that's a crime, because you call it insider trading. But this is something like that. Somebody realized what was going to happen and took advantage of it.
Yeah. So you agree with the fact that someone did take advantage out of the sugar scam as well, because there was one entrepreneur who really thought that the government was trying to do this and henceforth brought down all the sugar.
Yes, definitely. Somebody has taken advantage, but the difference is whether it was done purposely. I don't see the proof of whether the government did this purposely to help somebody else. To go to that point, you have to provide the proof and the evidence.
So there's a court case right now which has been filed by Surin Handunethi in court. So we won't dig deep into that issue at the moment, but we'll speak a little bit more in length about the sugar scam as well. I now move my attention to Mahesh Seranayake, a representative of the United National Party. Mahesh, all geared up to contest the upcoming elections, not you, but the party.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
How are you intending to do that now?
Sorry?
How do you intend to do that now?
Well, we are gathering our strengths, the scattered strengths. We are nursing our electorates. We have a lot of new faces like me. We have fresh blood in the party. We don't have fractions. We have people who respect the leadership. We see a repetition of 70 to 78. So next time, it is United National Party who will form the government, for which other fractions will join with us. A lot of people are negotiating with the hierarchy, and we are very happy, because when people realize that the country has to come first, they of course turn towards United National Party. So have no doubt, my friend, United National Party will contest the provincial elections, and we will address the grieving issues that the people are facing, which all other parties have failed in addressing. If you look at the parliament today, opposition 5 fractions, 5 or 6 fractions. Government, I think about 10-15 fractions. How can we run a country like this? Can you let a country to go to a drift? If you read the UNHRC resolution, it is so dangerous, the things that they talk about. Can we go and wage war with international community without taking professional stance in handling international issues? So if you look at overall, the country is now suffering from not only corona, suffering from great depression of the social cultural system. There are a lot of division amongst people, and the government has shown its callous attitudes, callous behavior. So in that context, it's the United National Party. Eventually people can turn to, so my friend, provincial elections we will successfully compete.
Mahesh, interestingly, I would like to sit on this side of the bench and say, good job, the UNP may emerge victorious, but the problem is the UNP has even failed to appoint the one seat they got in the parliament. And you all have not even been able to appoint a member to parliament, but you all are talking about toppling the government in 2024. I'm trying to figure out how possible is that.
Samir, now when I was a media person like you, I didn't know how difficult politics were. Now, there's a way politics works. I too have done that job.
Praise me.
It is the job of a media person. Now, say everyone talks about the UNP's seat. So we have one seat, which is a bonus seat. Now this seat is equivalent to all 224. Why? Because I believe, I have mentioned this in this show and in the Sinhala version, that the UNP seat is going to be very impactful seat, because people are waiting to see who is going to come to parliament. What we say is that UNP will send the right person at the right time. The parliament is a place where you hold sway. You are not going there to sleep. You are not going there to get into a deep slumber. You are not going there to see a sugar scammer or whatever scammer is doing a scam and he is sponsoring the opposition, he is sponsoring the government. And some of the opposition MPs are saying, yes, there is sugar scam, but some of the people are saying, no, there is no sugar scam. So we will send the right person at the right time. And as Rohan said, the die-hard UNPs are with us. Die-hard UNPs are with us. So with the division, yes, they were also deprived of certain number of votes. We were also deprived of massive number of votes. But the UNPs have now started understanding the current context. So we will send the right person. Don't ask who. We will send a man who can address the local as well as international issues. Samir, we need statesmen. We can't run this country with just member of parliament or just councillors or just politicians. If we do that, this country will suffer. Look at how indisciplined this government. Why? The government doesn't have representative of the people. They are so indisciplined. So when you are indisciplined, when your masters are indisciplined, people also follow that suit. So this country is suffering from lack of statesmen. So we will send someone who can hold sway in parliament. The first step probably would be that we will hold sway in a parliament in a way where we can call shots.
So when you say statesman, the only statesman within the UNP right now, it seems to me, is Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Well, if you look at of his caliber, he is one of the world-class statesmen.
Because indirectly you are saying that the person who is going to be appointed to parliament is going to be Ranil Wickremesinghe.
No, I didn't say indirectly. We will send someone. If the party chooses, okay, Mahesh Saranaka as a young person, as a junior person can handle the matters. If the party says, Mahesh go and serve the party, serve the country, we'll do that. See, our system is this. Have you heard about the Keene-Meene system? Likewise, we also have a way of developing the leaders. This is how J.R. Jayawardena, after the demise of Dudley Seranayake, developed the United National Party and got majority, absolute majority. Right? So likewise, Samir, we are also grooming, and I am being groomed. I must confidently mention the UNPS. Not only me, like me, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who believe three things. Our party has a DNA. One is the discipline. Then the policy, we call Pratipatya. Then discipline, the policies, and we always place country first.
But Mahesh, you can't caliber, or you can't match the era of J.R. Jayawardena to the Ranil Wickremesinghe era, can you? That's not a fair comparison.
No, I understand. I understand. Now, if you look at
you are trying to compare apples to oranges, whereas you have to compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges.
Yeah.
The grandson is all seated here.
So if you look at the 78 scenario, that was a time where the country was not open to the world. After 78, Excellency Jayawardena brought in the open market to Sri Lanka, and I believe one of the best statesmen this country and this world has seen must be Excellency J.R. Jayawardena. Now you said the times have changed. Of course, yes. After 30 years or 40 years from 78 today, if you look at the social fabric, it has changed. what I'm trying to say is, now if you look at that time, 70s, 60s, in both camps, 3 or 4 camps like Communist Party, Social Party, there were good leaders who were groomed by the system. But currently, this system doesn't allow for it. I mean, people like us who have been media guys, who have not gathered ill-gotten money, finds it very difficult to go and contest or run an electorate. So the things have changed, I agree. But the media, us, the stakeholders of this country should look at the fact that we need good leaders, we need sound leaders, we need wise leaders, we need leaders who will not let their henchmen to indulge in vice. So that has to come to a stop. I think the UNP can bring that paradigm shift to the country as we have done
Very
in
quickly,
78.
very quickly, Mahesh. Apart from watching Netflix at night, the leader of the UNP, what does he really do in making sure that the next provincial council elections, the UNP will emerge victorious?
Okay, very good question. Now, Samir, now in this country, people think when you become a president, he has to go from person to person, right, and tap the door and ask their worries or whatever the sorry status that they are suffering. The good leaders are not like that, or the leaders at national level are not like that, right? They have to spend time thinking strategically. Now see, Mr. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the current president, people had a lot of hope, expectation. But today we know there are a lot of shadow presidents. If you want, I can name them too. There are a lot of shadow presidents.
Example? Example?
Lot of businessmen. If you can provide me a visa tomorrow, if you can give the guarantee now, and if your company can sponsor me for legal case, I will come up with the names. I can do that.
I think that's quite a large allegation, isn't it?
No.
We will discuss about that later.
So
Don't worry.
no. So what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
so what I'm trying to say is,
Large allegation.
We'll get back to freedom of expression in a bit. Chris, I have a question lined up for you. Right. So Mahesh, quickly you can finish it off. Yeah.
yeah. So
saying.
we were talking about.
We were talking about giving you a visa.
Right. Okay. So shadow president. So what I believe is, when we choose a president, we need a president who is well read. We need a president who has time to strategically maneuver this country. That is how this country ran. If you look at Excellency Jaya Jayawardena, if you look at from 1948, if you read the books, there are a lot of epoch-making stories where he involved in running the country. Yeah. So we don't need leaders, Shamir, just to come on political rallies and just impress the people with words. Right. We need people who can action the words. That comes when a leader has ample and enough time to study the status of the country and the position. It's called strategic direction, my friend.
Thank you very much, Mahesh Ranaka, representative of the United National Party. I now move my attention to Chris Balthazar, a municipal councillor of the Devil Mountain Municipal Council. Chris, interestingly, my line of questioning to you is going to be a bit different today. First question to you is not about the provincial council elections. I know that you will be contesting the upcoming elections if you are given the ticket by the SLPP or the SLFP or jointly together. So we'll wait for that. But do you think there is freedom of expression in Sri Lanka?
Most definitely, yes.
Are you 100% sure?
If my friend next to me can express himself in that manner,
right,
and say that, listen, there's definitely freedom of expression.
So I will tell you a classic example. So one girl who came on the Silsa Lakshmapati program on Saturday spoke about the callous manner in which the government is destroying the Singaraja forest. Few days or few hours from that statement being made, she is being questioned by the police. Is this freedom of expression?
See, Shamir, if she made a statement...
No, is this freedom of expression? That's what I'm asking.
No, she's being questioned on maybe the bottom line of the government these days is, but we are slashed by the media saying that we are destructing the environment. Okay, so if she has made a statement, then she's accountable for it. Accountability, Shamir, whatever I come and say here, I'm accountable to it. You know, everyone in the panel here, we are all accountable for what we say. So likewise, what she said on a show, she was accountable. We saw the UMP MP SLJ SJP MP Ashoka Abhidar at a meeting expressing himself. You know, if there is some depth to what is being said, then you have to be accountable for what you say. And in ordinance, if you have not done anything wrong, there's nothing wrong.
So every single time the government goes ahead and interviews someone using police force just because that person makes a statement, is that right? Is that democracy?
Okay, so if a media channel comes up and brings a person on live media, and that person makes a statement, and in our defense, if we aren't to have anything, or to prosecute the matter or to find the depth, the truth of this, who's going to be the agency to do that? So media can report whatever, and no one else can counter it or find out the reality behind it.
So media, Chris, just to clarify that position, the media has ethics and guidelines that govern their bodies. So every single time there is one side of the story you interview or you always have to have the other side of the story as well. So there is a balance way in which stories are carried without being biased. But the question is, you speak about accountability. You speak about how everyone should be held accountable for the statements they make. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
So President Gotabaya Rajapaksa during his presidential campaign made a statement saying fertilizer will be given free of charge to everyone. Now who is holding the president accountable?
Shamir, what's said on a political stage
is different to what
No.
That's a very laughable
promises to be delivered,
Chris,
Shamir.
Unfortunately.
Promises to be delivered 1.5 years down the line. Don't expect things to happen overnight. Okay. Now what I would like to say is, based on your show, as for this thing, Minister C.B. Ratnayaka replies, I wish to tell that the child that she must speak based on accurate information. So what she gave out was not accurate information.
Today you saw the news today. Today, outside the house. And today you saw the news which was aired on 7 o'clock on Sirasa. You would have noticed that right in front of a house, a hotel is being built in the Singharaja forest.
It's not the forest. It's not in the forest. That's where the question comes in, Shamir. Is this people who are doing development, destroying the forest, going into the Singharaja sanctuary and deforesting and destroying it? That's where the question is.
So
collectively, I know there is a big story being made these days about how the government has.
It's not a story. This is the truth. If you go to most of the rainforest reserves, most of them, I can name if you want to, Chris, most of it is being destroyed, are being cleared.
Name another one, like Singharaja, okay, fine, where you claim that Singharaja is being deforested. Likewise, we saw a little while before that about the Lanka Deniaya road.
Rabakano,
when the Lanka Deniaya road was also being developed, okay, you all said that we were destroying Singharaja forest. Okay, I have some pictures, but it's in black and white at the time. But what I say is, if you can Google it and go on Google Maps and show them, it's all housing around the area. Development comes with a certain cost. Now what this person says, the police, the question as for it is, she may be right, and I'm also against deforestation, I'm also against it. But
every single time someone makes a statement, if the government is going to penalize them, based on the statement,
was she taken under custody?
She was questioned. That itself, what does it show?
Questioned, and then when the minister
Chris,
in charge
every single time someone is being questioned in the country, what is the negative signal that the government is sending out? It says you can't say anything against the government. If you say something against the government, we will question you. And that will happen through the police, and that will happen if you will be summoned to the CID. Now that is not fair. That is not freedom of expression, is it?
So now there again, the minister has said that these people are rightful owners of deeds. Okay, some deeds show that the lands have been in their possession for a long time. So a person coming out. What about the other party there? What about the damage that could have happened to them? Maybe take another instance. What about the damage that could have actually happened to them? One person comes out in media and slanders you. You know, we've seen a movie like that. There's a movie that was released some time back, based on one person's opinion, on one paper's opinion, and how that affected the entire family. You know, is going and asking for facts and figures a wrong thing? Or is it just that the government has to accept what the person and the media channel that published, that's it? Is that fair?
No, Chris, the point is, if you are talking about accountability, held all the politicians accountable for the statements they are making. Why not that? Why is this child who just said a statement on a media channel about deforestation that is happening in front of our eyes is being penalized? Hold all the politicians, hold the president accountable for what he said before.
You know,
it's a form of intimidation.
It's not a form of it's not intimidation. No, we can intimidation would have been
Environment Ministry or the Forest Conservation.
Absolutely.
Department. The fact that it is being interrogated by the police is a form of intimidation.
okay. No. Intimidation in that manner would have been if she was taken into the police station, held in custody, questioned for hours. You know, we saw that happen. We saw that happen with the previous
discussion with the public official.
We saw that happen with the previous regime. You know how courts were opened in midnight. How unlawful acts happened with the previous regime. We saw that in abundance.
But
here
courts were open in the night for, even to apprehend individuals like Rajas and Ratna, for an example. So don't say that it only happened during the Yahapalne government's time. It happened during the time of the present government as well.
If I come out on your station, and I say something maybe about another TV channel, okay, as much as you are, I'm also held responsible for my statements. The disclaimer of this program is that we are held responsible, that the media agency holds no responsibility for it, but the media organization has no responsibility for it, but it's the speaker's comments. So I understand, as a media agency, as a TV company, you all had no responsibility on the statement, but it was published.
So I have a question for you, Chris.
So
we have a question from one of our viewers, and then I want to open the floor for questions from the journalists.
But Shamir, I want to answer to the questions that you asked them and the comments that they have given.
No, of course, that will happen in the next round.
Because the first segment itself took.
I'll have to get back to you, Rehan. I have a question for. I have a question for Chris. So I'll give you an opportunity, Chris, to a free time to respond. So one of our viewers are posing a question to you, saying, if the cops could be so frivolous to go to the girl's house the very next day, how come the sugar person who was involved in the sugar scam in the country, which amounts to 15.9 billion, not even questioned so far?
See, Shami, that's what I said, that I would like to answer that question.
Yeah.
See, I know we spoke about the sugar issue and how it is going on. Okay. Now, the government from 50 rupees reduces the tax to 25 cents. With most of the commodities, okay, once the government came into power on the 30th of November, VAT was reduced from 12% to 8%. We saw a reduction of taxes. At that time, you know, we saw how the opposition harped and said, how is this government going to survive by deducting taxes? What are they going to do? Where is there going to be government revenue? Where are they going to run the country? Where is the money coming from? Okay. Now this calculation method, I'm speaking from what Mr. Artigala also has mentioned. Okay. If we were to go on this price range, by now a kilo of sugar would have hit 175 rupees. Okay. Then the government from 135 brings down the price to about 115. Approximately, it's gradually reducing, but there's a fact that has been neglected in the statements. The price of container insurance and freight from 72 rupees has gone up to 90 rupees. Okay, so that 18 rupee conversion was not adapted into this. Okay, so container insurance freight cost has to be included into this. So, you know, this sugar market, we know has been there for the last 30 odd years in the same manner, where it's the same lot of people, despite what government comes in, who does this. Now we saw Pradeep also saying that whatever government that came, whatever the instance it is, some markets decide, some markets gain, some markets lose. Okay, I'll give you an example. Now you're talking of retail, not retail, we are talking of wholesalers. But you take the fuel pricing. Okay, we saw as to how during the 10th of every month, the price structure kept changing. Okay, Mangala Samarira brought in the Telmila Sutra. Okay, so by every 10th, by the 8th to the 9th, we see petrol sheds running short of fuel.
No, but
okay,
because
but
your argument does not hold ground. You know why?
Let me explain.
Because if the government is saying that they don't know that someone is making a profit of 15.9 billion out of a scam,
it's not a profit, Shamir.
It's
an advantage that's been
15.9 billion. The state has lost. The state has lost 15.9 billion.
State has lost revenue.
So if the government is saying that they were not aware that the state lost 15.9 billion bucks, there is a problem. There is a problem.
The revenue goes to the people.
Doesn't know what they're doing.
Now we saw Sunil Handunetty filing a case about this.
Right. So I want to.
But the case was filed not for fraud. It was that the consumer was not given the proper price.
So I want
okay, so
I want to open the floor for questions.
If that's the case, why didn't the SJB or the UMP or anyone who's pointing fingers go and file a case saying that there's a fraud happening?
Right. So I want to open the floor for questions. So onto my immediate right is Nadeem, immediate left is Azra, onto my far left is Isal. So let's start off with Azra.
Chris, I want to continue the discussion that we were having. If I want to put it this way, we can see that there are certain similarities between the bond scam and the sugar scam. And we know how the previous government came under heavy criticism because of the bond scam. And that was one reason why they were sent home and the other party was brought into power. So if we are to see the same mistakes being repeated over and over again, we could stick to the previous government. Why elect a new government? You all have disappointed the people.
No, the bond scam, what you're talking is that the bond scam was on a far greater magnitude. Okay, poor policy making. Poor
numbers.
Okay,
bond scam was 7 or 8 billion.
40 billion. 40 billion.
No, for
bond scam was 40 billion.
600.
But Chris, it was during
the forensic audit.
Okay, no, Azra. Okay. Let me go on to that. During the Rahapajan regime, no sooner they took over, okay, first things first, Hyatt Hotel, the cancellation of that agreement and 1.2 billion loss, okay. Airbus ordered for Sri Lankan Airlines, 17 billion rupee loss.
Brother, you said Hyatt, how much? 1.2
billion.
1.2 billion, right, okay.
Okay.
Airbus?
17 billion.
So are there any cases against those that have been put by your government?
No, poor decision making.
No,
poor policy planning.
But have there been...
That was pre-government decisions that were made that were cancelled by you all.
But then did you all take us to court on it, or
what's there to take out?
No. So if we have caused that loss,
I said poor decision making. Poor decision.
But that's a loss. No, you were talking about
loss to the government.
Okay.
So that's losses to the government does not mean that there's. I'm not saying this is fraud.
Okay.
I'm not accusing us of fraud. I'm saying poor policy making decisions.
Then shape.
As a government.
Then okay.
Chris, give me a reason why this government is better than the previous government after all this.
After all what?
Sugar scam
There's
and the
a
bond scam,
presidential commission
classic example.
that is being formed to this. See, we saw the bond scam happening, and how many people went scot-free? How long did it take for the government to dig into it?
The current state minister was also part of it.
How many political...
Forensic audit revealed that. The current state minister was also part of it when they were before the previous government.
He has lost 10 billion in direct placements, Greek bond 9.7 billion, Auditor General Department
Greek bond
recently.
how much? Greek bond how much?
9.7 billion. As of now, it is
980 million.
Wait, brother.
980 million for the Greek bond scam.
This is being said by the Auditor General
Department. That was half and a half on about.
Auditor General Department says 13,000 million. Not Rohan, not me, not anybody.
Whether it's 980 million.
No. See what you're pointing.
We have lost money. We have lost money, Chris.
People have not lost money on this. So then every single commodity that the prices are reduced.
Why did Sato sir buy the sugar at 120 rupees when the tax was reduced and sell it at 85 rupees? Give me an answer for that.
See,
that's why was Tushar removed? Ask.
No, we have to let him give an answer.
The difference between the bond scam and this
No, no, but
situation.
I ask a very, very direct question. Why did Sato sir buy sugar at 120 rupees when the tax was reduced and sold sugar at 85 rupees? Give me a reason
Can
for
I
that.
answer?
No, no, wait.
No, that's what you call a doosra.
No.
Why did that happen?
What's the opposition's current motive?
No, I'm not asking about the
Okay,
opposition. Forget
they-
about the
they
opposition. please.
harp
We are
on
not
the-
talking about the opposition. We are not talking about the government. We're talking about the sugar scam. Why was Sato sir, what was the thinking behind Sato sir buying sugar at 120 rupees when the tax was reduced, and why did it sell at 85 rupees?
So it's giving it at a consolidated rate to the people.
Bad decision making or
No,
fraud?
government took the loss. I mean,
Government took the loss.
today we are buying electricity
So
at a higher
government
price
is
and
who?
selling it cheaper to the public. Why does the
I
government
mean,
do
government
so?
is who? Government
What's
is
the
us.
What's the
It's very
difference?
interesting, you know, on the,
I'm
let's
not
say, as
paying
an
taxes,
alliance
we are paying taxes,
partner
so-
of the SLPP, the SLF, you know, like you heard earlier, Chris was talking about, you know, there needs to be accountability. And you're talking about the accountability of Miss Bhagya, because she made a statement about the forest area outside of her house being clear, which she is an eyewitness to. So uniformed police officers are sent to interrogate her. It's accountability. Where is the accountability for all these decisions that are being made by, you know, top level public officials?
No, on that particular, I also read the article. What they are saying is that what was being cut down, there was a clearing being done. The issue is whether it is a forest area as a designated forest area or whether it was somebody's private land. So I think there is clear evidence to show that this was somebody's private land that they were clearing to do something. It had, when you say yes, it was forested, but it's not a designated forest area. So therefore the answer was the accusation that she made was incorrect. So okay, if you make a public
And this
accusation,
required her
you can be open to
questioned,
question.
interrogated by uniformed
Okay.
police officers rather than the government making a
That-
clarification
that's-
about it.
One thing that has to be added to it, when Lakshman Kiriyal was questioned on his Hamtana property, okay, at that time every media harped on and went on at him, but then he later on said that it was private property. You know, that's what Lakshman Kiriyal was up. So same thing, this is a private property, and one person makes a
But Chris,
statement.
you're
And
not
also
getting,
on the-
because we are talking about freedom of
No,
expression,
let me
right?
add on the bond
If
scam.
it's a
There is lot
private
of
property,
evidence
if
on
the
bond
deed,
scam.
if the evidence is there to prove it, if it is a private property, let the government or the Forest Conservation Department or whoever it is that is the competent authority to respond to it, make a statement about it, say actually her claim is misinformed or ill-informed. It was a forested area, it wasn't protected reserve, to which, you know, there is. Why does it require uniformed police officers going to interrogate a young girl? Isn't that suppression? Isn't that intimidation?
One second, now when
Chris,
Vimal
you look at
Veeravansa
like the
spoke
recent
about
cases. Sorry.
when Vimal Veeravansa in our Yahapalana regime spoke about abortion pills being stuffed into kottus, now was it dragged to the CID? Did he have uniformed police officers going? Now when they said that Dr. Shafi performed some ridiculous amount of abortions, was the person who said that, including Udayagamman Pila, dragged to the CID? Our mistake was we did it in reverse. We actually went on a witch hunt against Dr. Shafi, right? But what happened? Now where is the Shafi investigation now? Where are the abortions? Where is the abortion pill? Now, what I'm saying is, now when a girl, this is a franchise show. You all have to understand that this was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the Sinhala version. It's a franchise show. So when a girl who is not politically affiliated goes and makes a statement about her neighborhood, I mean, what is the need
And that's
for the
a
police
right.
to go?
It is that a right, because see, when people don't uphold freedom of expression, I mean, this happens. Mark my word. Now this is a signal, this is a beacon not only to that poor girl, even to your institution. When this place was burnt 15 years ago, we were juniors in media, right? We stood by you all, right? When Lasantha Vikramatunga was killed, we mourned. We still fight for it. So this is a signal. This is only 1 year.
Chris, I just want to drag your attention.
They don't
to a
respect freedom of
statement that was
expression.
made by
That's not in their
Sarat
books.
Veerasekara, Cabinet Minister of Public Security. He said that Azad Saleh should be arrested. Now, a statement being made by Minister Sarat Veerasekara on an individual that he should be arrested shows clear intimidation, isn't it?
No, they must show that he must be having very, very strong evidence or strong information that there was a, that Azad Salih has some connection with that. I mean, he would
No,
make a statement.
we saw such statements
Shamir,
being made.
when
We saw such statements being made
this
even by the defense secretary at that time, in 2008, 2007, saying that individuals should be arrested, individuals should be killed, Sarat Fonseca should be hanged.
Shamir, no.
That's the president that we have right now, and now we are
No.
going in that same direction once again, isn't it?
What your misunderstanding here is,
No, I'm not trying to
there is-
misunderstand.
no, no,
I'm
no,
trying to
there
figure
was
out
a-
what's
There
happening.
was a time where, we saw at the Presidential Commission also that this was probed, where Ranil Wickremesinghe and a few other political parties had meetings in temple trees with regard to who to lock up, when to lock up, and how to lock up, what time to lock up, and on what grounds to lock up.
There's
Then
no
we
proof.
also saw
There's no
Ranjan
proof.
Ramanayaka talking about talking to people like Shania Besekara and to several judges. Okay, now that part is forgotten about.
No, he's in jail now.
Okay, no. Then you are trying to say that the Yahapalana government totally neglected national security. Okay, they were on trying to get this racial harmony thing together. They totally neglected national security, and the worst period for the Muslims were at the time. Following
Chris,
Easter attacks,
Come on, Chris.
who was the worst hit?
Sorry?
Wasn't it the Muslims? Wasn't it the innocent Muslims who were doing their daily businesses? Weren't they the people who were affected by it?
Innocent Muslims are all burning.
Okay, so
Innocent Muslims are affected when Chris.
Shami, why haven't you asked Minister Sarat Veerasekara why he made that statement?
No, I'm asking the two of you now, because if I had the opportunity to have Sarat Veerasekara on the show, I definitely would have him and ask him. Unfortunately, no government minister is coming on the show. They're shying away. I must thank Pradeep and Chris for appearing on behalf of the government and answering questions. But every single time we try to get a government minister on the show, it's very difficult because they're shying away from the media right now.
Sham,
And
I
would
want to
yeah.
raise a question with Chris. You mentioned about a private property, right? You earlier, when we were talking about the environmental destruction and stuff like that, you mentioned
About
that it was a
Lakshman
private property, right? But private or not, Chris, everything is governed by the environmental law.
No,
so
see,
why the double standards?
No. What you have to understand is, okay, firstly, the approvals for this initial approval comes from the Grama Sevaka. Now, who appointed majority of the Grama Sevakas, and those placements are from where? Okay, I won't go on that matter. Then following that, it comes to divisional secretary. Then it comes to local governments. Okay, so collectively these three parties are the main people responsible for it.
But if
We
you are
saw-
citing
we saw
the
defense
examples,
secretary- we saw the defense secretary come out, Major Kamal Gunaratne come out and make a statement in open media saying that these deforestation affairs, all that is done, and we see that it is done willfully to tarnish the image of the government. Thereon
if
he
you're-
advised all.
Chris,
he
if you are
advised all-
justifying something you are doing right now, citing an
Is it the
example from the
government that's
previous
deforesting?
government, we might as well follow
is it
their
the
lead.
government that is
Chris.
deforesting?
You just mentioned about Lakshman Kiryal, how can that can be an example?
No.
So
What
if
I'm
that is
saying
how you're
is, what
justifying
I'm
what's
saying is,
happening
when
right now.
deforestation is happening, how a state minister of a previous government says that it's his private estate, and these are examples set not by us. These are examples set by them.
So you all are here to change it.
So that's what we are doing. We are in the process of changing things.
Yes, they
No,
changed
and,
the circular.
and also deforestation has been happening from the time the British landed in Sri Lanka.
But
Pradeep, how is that an excuse?
So if you take that,
Now you are
if you
talking
take
of
that on-
deforestation. Okay, how about the initiatives that the government has done for reforestation?
Like what?
300,000 trees to be planted for every grade 1 student that's admitted.
So when you are taking hectares away, that is nothing, no?
No.
But Chris,
What
there
I'm
must be
saying is,
something-
Rehan, you have to be fair by the people and also the country's development.
Chris, is it happening or not?
What?
Is deforesting under this government happening or not?
Deforestation has been happening right
But
throughout.
is it happening rampantly now or not?
You can't point a finger and say it's happening right now.
Honestly, are you honestly telling
No,
me?
if you look at the TV, if
Are
you
you
look at
honestly telling
TV,
me?
if you look at news, and if you pick all these places, every day there's deforestation happening in so many parts of the country, right?
could you
If you look at our statistics, you see how much our forests cover. I'm not saying it's good or bad,
with all
but
due
I'm saying
respect to
that's what has been.
Can you
show that?
Why
Can you
circular number 5 of 2001 was abolished?
No, can
Answer
you
that
can
it
you
was
show?
abolished. It was abolished by the circular number.
Can you
And
show
we
the
had ministers who
deforestation
said that we
rate
don't
has
need oxygen.
increased
Gentlemen,
in the last
let me put it
1
this
year
way.
compared
We
to the many
can't
years
do
before.
the finger pointing game here
No, we are not
by
point-
saying use okay. Then I can start off by saying you all destroyed Vilpattu.
And
You know, so these are political things. These are petty issues that we can point
Chris,
out
that
to
is why-
get political mileage.
No, but
when
Chris,
did
these-
this show I
I
can
asked
do
a
that.
technical question.
When
I
you
raised a
start
technical
taking
question.
this.
If you give me a minute, I raised a technical question. Circular number 5 of 2001 was abolished by MWFC 1/2020
Why was it
on
abolished?
November 4th. The idea was this. Let me define what forestation in Sri Lanka. The forest belongs to the people of this country, and it is run by Wildlife Department and the Department of the Forest Department. And in 2001, this circular number 5 of 2001 was brought in, where the other forest, there was a definition of other forest. What happened is, in Sinhala it's called Avashesha Vanantara. Now this Avashesha Vanantara was translated to English and it became other forest. Then there was rampant danger on these forests. Then what happened was, the 2001 government, they brought in these other forests under Wildlife Department and the Forest Department. Now this government has cancelled that circular and saying these other forests, Avashesha, I mean I will use this single word, Avashesha Vanantara, be brought under Disapati Tumas. Now who Disapati Tumas? GAs are public servants, educated public servants who doesn't have, most of them don't have a political backing. They are there to serve the people. Now what happens? They say this land is under Disapati Tuma. Somebody will call and say Disapati Tuma, X is coming, please release the land. This is happening in Kandy. This is happening everywhere.
So, Chris, you said about the government's plan to initiate or plant 300,000 saplings and wait. What I don't understand is, Chris, a start is good. The government taking that initiative is good enough. 300,000 saplings, let's plant it, and let's wait for another 150 years until these plants grow up, and then let's bask in that glory, saying that we did it 150 years after. And sometimes, Chris, you know more than I, most of these plants that are planted are not even well looked after by any authority. And after a few years, after planting these saplings, in a few years from that point onwards, all these plants are dead. And we're talking about government's initiative about planting 300,000 plants, which is all does not hold ground. Unfortunately, what you have to start thinking is not deforest. Go into that element and say let's cut all the trees. Let's talk about development, all that and more. What are we talking about, Chris? Isn't it a shame that the government has fallen into this petty ideology? Let's deforest and
no, the
plant
ideology
trees
is
on
not to
that ground.
deforest. There is no such ideology, and
There is no
I think the change in the circular has something to do with making it more flexible. For example, if you want to do anything with the land, then you have to deal with the forest department in Colombo, right? A very much more centralized structure. So the idea is to decentralize it so that people who want land for agriculture can go at the local level and get the clearances done. Now, if it is whether it is being abused, whether it is being abused,
environment is our asset.
whether it is being abused or not is the issue.
Don't abuse that.
No,
that
but
noble principle. This country's diversity is people.
What
and
is the
nature.
principle? What is the principle?
Principle is diversity of this country. Our nature, our people. It's a diversity. You all have broken both.
What about devolution?
What-
What about people who want agriculture land being able to get the land they want
No,
to?
that should be given through proper assessment. Now, wildlife department, now forest, we call rangers. Shamir, recently I learned they have powers equivalent to a police inspector. They can arrest you and they can arrest you and produce in the magistrate. Why? Because Chris, let's get together. Let's push our leaders, my leader, your leader, X, Y, Z, and tell them, please save this country for us. Now, as you said, Mr. Evans.
Just to interrupt, sorry, since you brought the point up.
Yeah.
Now, the other state forests have been vested under the power of the local government bodies. So, as representatives of local government bodies, like, what are the mechanisms in place? Like, what will you do differently so the people will have more faith in that these other state forests will be protected?
No, so
Local bodies, in theory, should have more interest in protecting the forests in the area.
So if
it actually comes under the GA, like what he said. It comes under the GA. We can only recommend, and we can give in Sinhala you can say recommend Nirdesha and all, but Nirdesha. But at the end of the day, Pradeep, it's the GA that is vested with all these land rights, and now the GAs are being called, and this is true. What he's saying is absolutely true. They are being called and they are being told to release lands, and they are doing
my
it.
electorate, it happens. This Apatuma spoke to me, said, Mahesh, now y'all please protect us.
Why are the local government officials stopping?
Yeah, why
But what is the scope that we have to stop it? Because now we are under governors.
So basically the local governments are powerless, is that what you're saying?
Because of the provincial councils not being there, and the fact that the provincial council chief minister is who we are responsible to.
There is a paralysis.
Now it's paralyzed to a level that we are under the obligation of a governor, who is appointed by the president. Look at the governors who are appointed now.
So you mean to say such a vociferous person like you, Rehan, can't stand up on deforestation?
No, being vociferous doesn't mean that you can run a country. Then Vimali Viravansa can run the country.
He can write, he was the first rated person.
But Chris, there's a big difference between standing up to someone within a political party and then the governance structure of the country itself. It's two entirely different things.
No, I guess he defined the
I mean, you have the governors, he's as the chairman of the urban council with no provincial council and no chief minister report to, where it's gubernatorial governance and where the governor is appointed by the president itself. The local council, not just Rehanu, even SLPP run local council, this thing, they're in a catch-22 situation where they can't really go against.
I have the bird sanctuary Athidiya under our purview. It's administrated by the wildlife department, but we also have certain restrictions that we have to impose when we are doing it. Now, for example, with the urban development plan for 2021-2030, I took a stance and said no high-rise buildings can come on to a certain part of Athidiya, because bird migration and these effects that will happen. It's not only about trees, and it's about nature as a whole, as a conservative measure that we have to take. So, as much as we try to control things, there are people who illegally go, that you do a drive down the bird sanctuary on Athidiya, you get people dumping of rubble. You know,
Chris, while we're still on the subject, I want to focus your attention towards Rambakanoe also now. That is one of our most precious natural resources. But then 5,000 acres have been given to few businesses to grow maize there, Chris. So seems like whatever the decisions that you're making, or whatever the plans or the action that you're taking, none of this is successful. It seems like you all haven't given proper thought to the whole process, and that is why the opposition has the power to even come forward and criticize the government like this. Why give them a reason? Do something about this.
No. See, there is now the president you've seen with this Gamasamura Pilisandara, where he talks to the officials of different areas and says there has been ancestral farmer land. Okay, Paramparika Goibin.
Yes.
Okay. Then there has been ancestral like Kiripatti for where you handle for milk and this. So these areas have been over. Now in Polonaru I know a certain incident where it was the farmer's property was fenced off and taken into the park, and on the latter we saw dispute happening there also. So sometimes on a political grounds you have to take the side of the farmer and of the people also. We have to understand the sentiments of the people. Okay, now as I said with now the other road developments we saw, finally there was a EIA, we saw environmentalists go gaga over this, saying that we are cutting huge trees and all that. Yes, there are certain trees that have to be cut, but you give back to nature. What we learn from childhood is that you give back to nature on what you destroy.
My question is very specific towards the Rambakanoe. I want to know specifically about that. What is your take on that? The fact that 5,000 acres of land have been given to a few businesses to just grow maize. That is a chicken feed, no? And that is one of the most precious natural resources.
So is it a national park? I can't see how you can give a national park to...
I want...
It's a natural resource. That's what
natural resource.
Not a, it's a natural resource, not a reserve.
It's a reserve as well.
Reserve as well, yeah.
Reserve
It's
as
a
well.
reserve.
Yeah.
And
then
I
you
can
can go to
agree,
court and stop
I
it,
can
right?
agree if like the Bangladesh Grameen system, the government forms cooperative societies and enable farmers, the farmers to go and cultivate. Now here what has happened? The financiers have been given an opportunity to make a buck.
So why can't you go to court and stop that?
Have you been to Rambakanoe, Pradeep?
No, I haven't. I don't.
The Adivasi chief is at court trying to stop
Now,
it.
Mr. Jayawardena, now all these governing
whether
party,
went to
when
court.
we get into this
But
kind
Mr.
of a-
Java, this is a problem. It should be the job of the Forest Conservation Department, the Wildlife Conservation Department, to protect these things before they are destroyed and citizens have to go to court to challenge it. We have regulatory bodies in place to stop it from happening.
But Nadeem,
So,
when you
so
get
they have got
like let it happen and
obviously-
then citizens
obviously-
create a lot of issues, and the wildlife minister went there and started berating the officials. So when you have a minister who is having issues with his own officials, who is himself saying that the wildlife officials are the reason we are in this mess, so what more can you expect?
And if I add to it, now Pradeep asked from Astra, so why don't you go to courts? Mr. Pradeep Jayawardena, you come from a noble family. The governments are formed to run the country. We are not there to go and file cases. Every time SLPP confronted with issue, they say, go to courts. Governments are not required
No, governments are not required to go to court. The opposition must do that.
So we
And
will
if
do
it-
that. We will take that steps, and we are quite watchful.
So even like the sugar thing, they just come out here and talk, but what action have they taken?
So
Have they
This is
filed a
the
case?
same reaction.
this is a
Shamil,
this
For
is
good
a-
government, we need a good
I would convey
opposition.
this message to all Sri Lankans. Now this is what you are getting. Now you all didn't go and vote, and you all voted in a wrong government, and they are saying to you today, if there is a crime, go and file cases. Now I am requesting from Sri Lankans, all the Sri Lankans watching this program, living in Sri Lanka and living outside.
Yeah, I'm talking pertaining to a matter.
No, Chris,
Okay.
everything. Chris,
No,
if
no,
you
no.
look at UNHRC, right? If you want, I can tell you this is on a weekend newspaper. I follow this. There are 12 points. If you read these 12 points, we can see the level that you are pushing the country to, right? You all have completely royally messed up the country. Dinesh Gunawardena, Honorable Foreign Minister, he has messed up the UNHRC, right?
But Mahesh,
brought
it's
us
not
there?
like your track record is
Who
any
brought us
perfect
to that
either.
point?
UNHRC, right? Okay.
Can I no, because
Yeah, yeah.
because this is about my
No,
mentor
can I-
Mangala, no. So
Yeah.
can I just say something? No,
No,
everyone.
No,
Okay,
wait,
okay, okay.
no, then you add,
Okay.
right? Okay.
Bash, you can't do that. Wait, I'll give you an opportunity. I want to hear.
I'm going to say.
Yeah, I
no
want to hear-
president in this country
Yeah.
had gone and signed.
I want to hear Rehan as well. I want to hear Rehan as well, and then
Now
I'll come back to
everyone
mine.
blames Mangala, saying that Mangala went and brought up this resolution. Now, why did Mangala bring up this resolution?
Not brought up the matter. He co-signed.
He
it.
He
One-
co-signed the
it's
resolution, or whatever it
goes
is.
one
Why
side.
did Mangala do that? Mangala did that so that we can show some sort of mechanism, like what South Africa did, some sort of reconciliation mechanism, because we were heading for deep sanctions. This was after Lasantha being killed. This is after Keith Noya was abducted. This is when reconciliation was not happening. So Mangala had to do it. But now what is happening? Now, in a big way, now our people are saying that we don't care about these sanctions. But we are in a situation now where on the 22nd of this month, when the vote comes up, we are not even sure whether India will vote for us. India was our
Rehan, I
best
disagree.
friend.
I think we were very, very far away from sanctions. And what Mangala signed was not
Okay, bringing sanctions,
not,
we just go into
not
Security
just
Council. It has to go.
to stop that. He signed allow foreign judges to come into our country and try our soldiers.
Why-
He
why-
signed a
why-
foreign investigation into.
Can I
After
ask you
1815,
one
the
question?
biggest
Pradeep, I want to ask you one question.
No one in the country can
If the
violate
US
our
government,
sovereignty.
if the US government can try their soldiers for atrocities committed in countries like Afghanistan, why is it not possible? Right? We have to face facts. We have to know that there are
US
two
government
sides.
allows
There-
foreign countries to come into their country and try their soldiers. I don't think so.
Pradeep, no, one second, Pradeep, the fact that we burnt Muslim bodies, I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine what we did?
That's in
This
the
is the,
OP8
this
of
is
the
the, this
resolution,
is the
right?
second biggest population in the world.
Rehan, that's where the question comes in.
Right, and Vivid,
No,
and
no,
they
that
gave
is-
scientific reasons too. Now where are the scientific reasons? Imran Khan is the best scientific reason. He came down and before he landed in Pakistan, the gazette was printed. But
So
up till-
Rehan, Imran Khan basically did your job now.
no,
he had
we
to come
tried-
and
no,
fix
the
it
thing
because
is,
the opposition
no,
wasn't
the
strong
thing
enough
is,
to talk about
the
it.
thing is, Asra, we tried, no. But Imran Khan, the way he got it done was because of the fact that we needed their vote at the UNHRC. And just like it happened, now Pakistan is going to vote for us. But Pakistan voting for us, it has also annoyed India.
We had to bring down another prime minister to get it done, Rehan, because the opposition wasn't talking enough.
No, we were actually talking about it, but what more can we say? There were over 100 Muslim, there was a 2-month-old toddler in Waligama who was burnt in a shopping bag, right?
In a shopping bag?
Yeah, in a shopping bag. I can show you the video. In Matra, that child was burnt in a shopping bag because the parents couldn't offer a coffin crease. You can take me on this. I can
in
show
a
you
shopping bag or a body bag?
No, it was a shopping bag. It was like a house of fashion shopping bag. If I can get the video, you all can see.
It would have been a body bag because you would have surely exposed it at the time.
We did expose it. We did expose it.
It would have been a body bag.
We did expose it, and you all were using scientific reasons, and you all went and you all started, and even what are you doing with the burqa? With the burqa, right? How many?
There are still many countries in the world who are cremating every COVID death.
But Pradeep, where?
Scandinavia?
That's on
You go
their
to Sweden?
But
You think you can bury people? You can't.
But what is the scientific? Then why are we allowing it now?
Because of the
Imran Khan.
ethnic sensitivity,
No.
because of the pressure from
because
the
Imran Khan.
community,
Please, come on, please.
and under control.
I mean, let's talk.
It is not carte blanche. There's still a lot of regulation.
Right, listen to this. How did you know, Chris, that the burqa is rarely worn in Sri Lanka? Do you know what is worn in Sri Lanka? Do you know what is worn? There are different types. There's a niqab, right? There's a hijab, right? But do you know that last year, when our government went and put these emergency regulations about the burqa, did you see what happened at Sampath Bank when a lady went in a hijab? Did you see what happened to a Muslim lady who went to Apico with a niqab? Right? Why is Sarath Fonseca not telling Derna and Hiru?
No. What you have miscalculated here is, Rehan, in 2009, when we were left with a peaceful country, okay, we heard bombs going off only at the April bombings.
So
okay.
that's why we went
You all were running behind, you all compromised national security.
Yeah.
This is a matter of national security, Rehan.
Can I tell you something?
Okay,
can
it's
I
a problem with national security.
No, but you have the problem.
And also you go into about the
Which one of the bombers
wait,
were wearing
just
a
give me one second. I
niqab
want to
or
ask you one
burqa?
question.
Which one of the bombers were wearing a niqab or burqa?
But I want to ask you one question. Just let me ask you. No, let me ask you. Chris, let me ask you one question.
Now, was it us who first
So
said?
someone wearing a full face helmet
Chris, if
is a national
225 were
security.
notified, their security details were notified.
And who first banned this?
No, I just want.
Who first stopped the niqab?
No. Let me
Who
ask you a
first said
question.
no
Now,
to the burqa?
225 MPs security details were born. No. Can you tell me how many of your 47 Pohottuam MPs went and told people not to go to church? So as much as we are responsible, so are y'all. Because your MP is also new. Your minister is also new.
Chris, I'll get back to mine. So, Chris, we're talking about the burqa and the niqab and the hijab and so on and so forth. Now, right now, if you go out in the open, you will realize that everyone is wearing a face mask.
I know, Shami.
No, my question is very simple. How can you?
Let me place.
When the motion was brought in, when the cabinet
as a politician, Shamir, as a politician, as a minority, as the only burqa politician to be appointed in this current political situation, I'm against banning of anyone's religious clothes. Okay, I can't tell you what to wear, and you can't tell me what to wear. But if it's on national security grounds, and if the minister,
What's the agency?
okay, if the as now you being a Muslim itself, I don't see you wearing that.
It's my choice. Can you
It's your
dictate
choice.
what
It's
to
your
wear?
choice, exactly. You know,
But what's the urgency?
what the minister says is that this is a new thing that has come out.
No, it's not a new thing, Chris. It's not a new thing.
It's very interesting, right? Because recently, going back to Geneva, you have a permanent representative in Geneva going and saying that women's rights are subject to domestic compulsions. On the one hand, you have MPs, persons within the SFP, like given that Women's Day was just last week. On the one hand, you have people saying that, Kantavan, Sangvara Vennone, they'd be more modest, and anything. Then the other hand, you have like this thing. It seems that women's behavior and women's attire is a national security concern for the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramunda.
No,
Not only for Sri Lanka, so many countries have banned the burqa.
No, I don't
But why
understand the thinking behind it.
Sarath Veerasekara going?
Why is it that
he
women's
issuing a
attire
guideline
and
to media
women's
channels?
behavior is a
Right?
national security
Why isn't he
concern?
telling media channels to show, if you go on Google and type types of Muslim veils, it will come, right? Why can't he notify the public what the difference is? Because they are creating racism. This is xenophobia, right? This is pseudo ultra-nationalism, right? This is what they are doing because the provincial council election is coming up and Sinhalese people that they appease they appease to a certain section of the Sinhalese community. No. Now the Sinhalese community is annoyed because now there is no scientific reason.
See,
but the only scientific reason now is the provincial council election.
No,
Yeah,
no.
man.
Rehan,
No,
Rehan, you're
Chris,
mistaken on
Chris.
that. This government did not own. The president made a statement that the backing was majority of the Sinhalese Buddhist by the Sinhalese.
Why does he retaliate that at every single
never
meeting that he
says-
goes to?
He never
Why does he
says
say,
that,
I
you
won
know-
because of the Sinhala Buddhist people?
Okay.
Why does he say that? Is that inclusivity, Chris? Is
Rehan,
that inclusivity?
Rehan.
Just
No,
because
he
a
said
Muslims
he-
didn't vote
no,
for
how
you.
many
Muslims
said he
do you
reached out
have?
to the others.
How many? Take Veligama.
Yeah.
How many Muslims do you have in Veligama?
We have
Majority
roughly
would be
12,000 in the city limit.
Majority would
Yeah.
be this thing. Okay.
Yeah. And they will never vote for you again, ever.
Soon after the presidential
mark my
election,
word.
with the parliamentary election, I'm giving you last election statistics. SLPP was able to secure 70.99%.
Yes,
Okay.
and they'll never get that again, Chris.
Okay. No. I'm saying after the president saying that he is a Sinhalese, how you all claim it to be.
No, Chris, the
at
president.
Mangala Porwa,
No,
that
it was after the presidential election. He said
soon
that.
after parliamentary election.
He said no.
Soon after
he-
parliamentary
no, he said
election,
that at one
I'm talking of
Bahasa.
Veligama Pradesh. I'm talking of
Okay.
the Veligama election, parliamentary election.
Yes, that's
Okay.
homework for you.
Okay, 70.99% for SLPP, SJB only 12,359.
Yes, why? Why do you think that
Okay.
is? Because
so now
the president went on this.
who's dragging this racial problem into this? Who's saying that?
So you're
that the
saying there's no
president is
racial problem,
racist,
is
there's racism happening. It's them.
So
they are
there's
the ones
nothing.
who are creating it.
So
they are
there's
creating
nothing.
the states.
They're saying
creating
that
the
based on the
platform.
actions that your government is taking. They're saying that based on the actions that your government is taking.
And also, Chris, like you have to think, like when you bring in restrictions like this that's targeted at a certain minority, it aggravates people.
What restriction are you
I mean, like we
on
talk
the
about
clothing?
burqa and also the cremation, the forced cremation.
Forced
So
cremation,
this sort
fine.
of
It's not.
encourages the extremists out there,
It's not only the Muslim people that get affected by it. Na. The Christians are also affected.
which are
But
also
has it
minority.
mentioned in the Christian Bible that you have to be cremated?
Then
It mentions in the.
on for Buddhists, Panchakula Denega, they are not given the opportunity to do that. Each religious people have, but I understand the sentiments of the Muslims. I understand.
Shamir, now
As a
what-
minority, we all have to understand it. Shamir, I have spoken to you many times about this. This is a subject that I don't like to go into because I also can stand at a stance, and I also should have the right to to not agree to everything. I won't agree to everything that the
You
government
have
has
to be
done.
watchful, Chris, because you're coming from a minority, and if you are to be elected to the provincial council,
Exactly, Shamir.
you know you need to,
Shamir,
you
I
need to
told
have
you,
a cross section of the votes
I
coming
have
in
a
as well.
majority of Muslim people in my area, the Himal Mountain area. That's two electoral areas, and it's a ever-growing Muslim population, and I maintain a very good relationship with
And
them.
how do they
I
feel
don't
about
want-
this? How do they feel about it?
They are upset about it, but it's not all Muslim deaths. Na. There again, it is only COVID deaths, and now the government has already.
No, that's wrong. Do you know that the child that was cremated had a negative PCR test? Do you know that still that child's name has not been put in your registry?
Most of the
Rehan,
Muslim.
you mean to say that everything is the government's fault, that the government targeted that?
They just dragged that
government
child and
is
cremated
power.
the child, Chris, on a negative PCR
I know,
report.
Rehan, I know. If you say that, I'll agree with you. But it is not the government said no. You have to cremate this
who said
child.
that?
Who said
Who
so?
said
Who
that?
said so?
Okay.
Who said
Somebody at a lower level has
there was
taken
a
it
lower
to the
level
government.
negligence.
But then,
There was a level of negligence.
so again, Chris, we
and
come
you're
back to
talking
what we were talking about at the beginning.
You're talking about a
Accountability.
pandemic.
You're talking about
a
accountability.
situation where
Where is
thousands
the
of people
accountability
can die
for
from
that lower level
Shamir,
negligence?
Chris asked a question just a few seconds ago. Who said that? Did the government say, okay, you have to give me 3 minutes or 3 or 4 minutes? I'll start with UNHRC. No president in this country has entered to a co-sponsored joint statement, none other than Excellency Rajapaksa in 2009 with Ban Ki-moon. In my terms, it could have, I feel like it's hurriedly done one. In 2 months, they write the UN.
No, that was not a. That was joint statement.
Joint
That was
statement.
not
So
a.
even-
It's not a sponsor, not co-sponsor.
No, it
I
was
said
not
it's a joint
co-sponsored.
statement.
It is not
Joint
co-sponsored.
statement.
So that was the basis. That was the basis.
Mahesh, you said that no head of state has ever made a joint statements are made all the time.
Joint statement with the UN Secretary General. That's the first time. Then what happened?
So that's the first time we ended a war like that. You know,
now
so it's
they're
a
not allowing me to answer.
very.
Now this is a problem. This is a
Okay,
problem
go
with
ahead,
this.
go ahead.
Now when I come with a technical,
No,
but
go
they
ahead,
can-
we'll
Mahesh,
answer
to be very fair, they can object to whatever you are saying. So
at least until
No,
I
no.
finish the sentence.
No, but you can't say something that's not
you
correct.
can't. You can't. You
That's
can.
the reason.
No,
If you say something
But
technically
you can't
incorrect,
pick and
then we
choose,
have
no.
to. We have
Because
to.
every time they were talking, you all were also interrupting.
No,
So
but-
whenever
but-
you all
but-
are,
No,
whenever you all are talking,
but we interrupt.
they have all the right to
I
interrupt
allowed
as
them to
well.
convey the idea. So
Yeah.
UNHRC basis was that joint statement. And I'm not saying that it was wrong at that time with the circumstances. Then President would have done that in good faith, right? Let's say in good faith. But how you work with international community? You can't wage war with international community, Chris. It is always diplomacy. That is why there's something called diplomacy. People are learn, train, groom for diplomacy. In diplomacy, you go into inclusivity.
Diplomacy does not mean you agree to everything that the international community tells you. That's not diplomacy either.
Who agreed?
Right? Diplomacy.
Who agreed?
You just went and signed.
No.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen. So you open it up. Let's read it. Okay, you take it. You take it. You take it now. Let's read it. Let's read it. Let's read it. I like these kind of challenges. Inclusivity is required to manage the friendship, in pure language friendship, the network of the international community. It is not about just going and fighting with the international community. We have to manage them, because why? We are dependent on them. We talk about exports on one hand. So whom we are going to export? We are going to export our items to the international community. Now the problem here is, now Mangala Samarivira during the Yahapalana period, he has co-sponsored. The idea of the co-sponsorship was to sit in that table
and save us.
Wasn't it good enough? Rather than allowing four of you all to decide on our country, I will say, hey guys, I will also be part of this discussion. Right? So what Mangala Samariro Yahapalana did was, they said, look, we want to solve this issue. Let us also let us
reconcile.
Mahesh, I just want to ask you a question now. You all co-sponsored the resolution in 2015.
Yes. Yes.
What progress did you all do in terms of all that? Now you all were in power from 2015 to 2020.
Yeah.
So this government has been in power for 1 year. What progress did you all make after signing the agreement or co-sponsorship?
Right, okay.
What have you all
they
done?
were under the co-sponsorship. First, before the co-sponsorship, they were talking about international involvement.
No, you are not answering the question. My question is very simple. It's very simple. What did you all do?
That's why I'm going to answer you. Now, before Mangala Samarivira signed, the international community was thrusting. Their thrust was to have international judges and international monitoring mechanism. Under the co-sponsorship, the then government was able to negotiate. First, give priority to a national reconciliation process.
So, in terms of the national reconciliation process, what did your government do?
The lessons learned
this was signed in before that. 2017, this was signed.
Yeah.
Then 2018, right? The government, Yahapalana government was looking at.
This was signed in 2016. 2016, right after the general election was over.
I think
2 months after. No, 2 months after.
It was okay, say 16. Yeah. So then, Office of Missing Persons was brought in, right? And then
what did that office do?
Well, that office was to understand
and create a database
who were victimized and examine the cases. And
also they opened the doors to foreign investigators who came in, went into our army camps, our navy camps, and made reports and gathered evidence to bring
Pradeep,
people who are military justice. So those should never have been done.
You said that it was the only time international monitors came to Sri Lanka.
Not monitors. They were investigators. They came in. They were given access in. They went into the army camps. Some of them made claims.
Army camps where?
They went into navy camps in Trinco, and they made claims that torture was conducted in those camps. They gathered evidence.
The bottom line is your foreign policy and our
no foreign country allows
does not have to be the same.
Yes.
It doesn't. This is the basic to the Communist Party in China.
This is two-thirds majority.
It's like Pohotwa chairman is Xi Jinping, the president of
We
China.
agree that diplomacy is necessary.
So
in other words, what he expects us to do is, back in the time when Mangala Samarira,
this is the time that everyone can speak.
He's been talking about it and going on about it. I don't want to waste our time. Actually, we're not even going for a break by now. But what I'm saying is, Shamir, when this whole thing happened, we were, as the opposition, we stood up and we fought against it. And now you want us, who have a two-third mandate of the people, to say no, what they did was right, we'll go with that. No.
Do you all know what's been negotiated in UNHRC right now? Do you know how we are running to save ourselves now? Do you know the statements that have been made by the minister? Do you know the statements?
See, they are so careful. UNHRC now, when they refer to a country with the subject matter, they say the concerned country. There's a jargon, there's a parlance, there's a technical definition. right, under which only we operate. So Chris, co-sponsorship doesn't mean we go and say, hey, you all come and
Chris,
conquer
you
the
spoke
country.
about, you mentioned that during the previous government,
Yeah, Basma.
you mentioned that during the previous government, you as an opposition came forward and spoke about it, spoke against it. And now you all in power, you are doing the same thing, no? Or much worse.
No,
So what's the difference?
We were against a system where, you know, but we saw on the media at the time saying that this is the biggest traitorship that has happened after 1815, that this is Sri Lanka's biggest thing, that where your own people, you put them, island nation, you
Don't
put
you think the same thing is
jeopardize them.
happening now
Also,
when it
there is
comes
a
to
word for it.
national
Why
assets?
can't we have
That everything
our
is
own,
given on a gold
what
plate
we said
to
is
other countries?
we'll let us have our own solution. Let us have our own system.
Seems that there's no solution, no, Chris.
Okay.
High time you come up with
Right,
solution.
that's a good question.
current resolution.
Mahesh, just a question for Chris. So we have to have a homegrown solution to the reconciliation problem. Am I right?
We have the lessons learned.
We have the Lessons
commission.
Learned and Reconciliation Commission report, which was formed during President Mahinda Rajapaksa's time.
Yes.
Tell me one recommendation that was implemented.
Sorry, I can't
No,
recall.
before they could start to implement the Lesson Learned Commission, the new government came in. What they did was, even the evidence that was collected, they closed the thing and they shut the whole thing down, and they just went and signed the
Lessons Learned and
co-sponsorship.
Reconciliation Commission report came
2011.
in 2012.
The Paranagama Commission
Yeah,
report came out.
The
The Paranagama Commission.
Tell me
Mangal
one
Samaravira
recommendation that has been
went
implemented.
when
One of the recommendations was
Paranagama-
to.
Mangal
One of the
Samaravira-
I can give you a classic example, Pradeep. One of the recommendation was to prosecute Karuna Amman, who was involved in the killing of police personnel in the Eastern Province.
They made him chief
Yeah, but when
minister.
did the commission report came out? When the
Yeah, but
Hapala-
what action?
The Hapala
what
government
action
was
did-
in power.
what
There was no
did
action.
Mahinda Rajapaksa
There
take
was no
on
action that he
Karuna
could
Amman?
take, because the Paranagama Commission was completed and handed over not to Mahinda Rajapaksa. It was handed over to Maithripala Sirisena, and it ended up with the Mangal
Sirisena
Samaravira.
now.
Right? It ended up with
see,
Mangal
because
I'm talking
Samaravira.
about the lessons
He
learned.
contested from SLP.
I'm talking about the lessons learned.
Actually,
Lessons learned and
it never even reached his hands, because
the LLRC report.
I'm talking first hand. The man, Justice Paranagama.
No, I'm not talking about the
hand-
Paranagama report. I'm talking about the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission report. Tell me one recommendation that was implemented by the Rajapaksa government.
There were many of them that they started. There was a list of things that they started implementing.
There was a lot.
There
So
were
tell me one-
there were many
tell me
things
one.
that they started implementing. There are many of them that were implemented.
Like what?
Not, I can't remember the details of it, but many of them they started working on them. There was, we presented that to the UN
They
HRC.
implemented non-implementation. When you read LLRC, actual LLRC report was a fairly balanced report. For example,
It honestly was.
It demanded for certain schools to be established in provinces, multi-ethnic, multi-religious schools. Now, when Rajapaksas read this, they realized if you implement it, that they will not be able to ride on Sinhala chauvinism. So their number one is Sinhala chauvinism. But luckily, the Sinhala Buddhists are now understanding that the government is hoodwinking. Even the UNHRC, Dinesh Kumar says, no, we rejected the resolution. But Chandra Prema, permanent representative, last Thursday, he had forcibly, such an insult to the country, forcibly gone to an online meeting where he is not supposed to be at. Right? So that is how they work.
So let's go back to the LLRC. The LLRC report came out at the end of the Mahinda Rajapaksa regime.
No,
2012.
2012.
So, he had only how many years? He had only 2 years after that.
So he could have done that. No. If you
So
look at,
and there were many things that they started implementing.
I think we have to honor this airtime. Let's move forward. Now, course for all that, we have to get into definition.
Mahesh, but you are very vocal for someone who represents a party that can't even send one representative to parliament. If you have someone in parliament, they can surely bring this up in parliament.
Yes, why don't you
the
talk
delay?
in parliament about it?
Yes, we will send a representative to parliament.
When?
Ashra.
Oh, get at least more than 2% in the area that you represent.
Ashra,
No,
Ashra,
the-
Ashra,
if you talk about responsibility,
So just to correct, so the LLRC report was handed over to President Mahinda Rajapaksa on the 20th of November 2011.
2011.
So I got it right the first time.
Yeah. So it was handed over by.
So he had 2012
Yeah.
and 13.
By
So
CR
there were many
Please,
things.
can I quickly ask
There-
the 13
there-
and 14?
There were
What
many
position
things
does
that were
Karuna
being
Amman hold in your
implemented. There were many things that were implemented.
No, I just want to ask Chris, what position does Karuna Amman hold in your government?
He was a minister and he was
What position does
P-
Pillayan hold in your government?
He was given a state ministership. No.
Karuna Amman
He is
was
the chairman of the District Development
District
Committee.
Development Committee.
Almost as powerful as a cabinet minister. No, Adi with us. That's what I want to find out from you. Now I want to find out, now in the LLRC report, there was recommendations again taking action against both these individuals. So what action have you all taken against both of them after you all got elected this time?
Yeah, but then they
But Douglas Devananda was part of your government.
And now very much.
And who was he?
See, we can't go browbeating us.
Pilihan was sent on trial and he was prosecuted.
There are real problems.
And what? And given bail and
NRC.
So you mean to say that the judiciary is been biased?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, where is he now? No, but where is he now? What happened to the trial?
Right?
No, Chris,
So
it's not fair. It's not fair to put words into Rehan's mouth. That's not fair. You're just trying to do that. Don't do that. That's not fair because there is a panel. That's A. B is we have to respect each other's political standing. C. We have to all walk out of this room.
In one piece.
Having
and both of you all are classmates as well. So
since we are 5 or 6 years old, we've been the same. So
putting words in someone's mouth and putting someone in trouble based on that is not fair, Chris. So we have to come into an amicable settlement on that, and then based on that, Rehan can continue.
And my question is that for a government that is supposedly keen on solving this national issue, to go and bring up this unwanted issue of Muslim cremations, to bring up this unwanted issue of not describing which Muslim face veils are banned. I mean, Chris, what do you think the UNHRC is going to do this time? How do you think the 47 members will vote? The countries that are voting for us, Eritrea, Pakistan, I can't even remember the other names of the countries. But look at the countries against us. England, the US, right? Almost the full Western bloc. And where are we going to go with this? And then in the middle of it all, you all have a central bank governor that goes around saying that we don't need the IMF.
Rehan, are you saying that we should not have ended the war? Are you saying that? Okay, so from the time we ended the war, these countries have been against us. I'm not saying it's good, wrong, but I'm saying we have to deal with it. I'm not saying that you have to say we don't accept them and just shut the door. Neither am I saying that you must do what your government went and did by going and signing a correspondence and accepting everything they want you to accept. That's called treason.
Taking that aside, Pradeep, taking that aside.
That's called treason.
No, taking that aside.
You asked me a question.
No, let me finish
2018, Shamir, in 2018, the US called the UNHRC a cesspool of political bias.
Donald Trump. Not the US.
But now you take all this. Why is the UNHCR all reactivated now again?
But you know, under Joe Biden's leadership,
because we are infringing basic
under Joe
human
Biden's
rights.
leadership,
the diaspora.
under Joe Biden's leadership, the US has rejoined the UNHRC. Are you aware of that?
That's right. No, I know. But I'm saying that the different, how differently we are looked at. Okay. Once a patriotic government comes, once a more nationalistic government comes in,
pseudo-nationalism,
especially where the Rajapakshas are concerned.
Now, if this is someone else, was Donald Trump's
no, I'm saying at this moment, at this very moment.
Chris, what is your personal view about cremations? Tell me.
No, Rehan, let me finish.
No, between friends.
No.
What do you think about cremations?
Let me finish on this.
Okay.
Then they drag this on by saying that it's the Rajapaksa. It's all about the Rajapaksa. That's where the family name comes in. Bang, everyone comes in. Okay. Where were all these people when the attacks on Digana happened?
So then where were they? So who started it? What happened? What happened in that town?
You all had a government at the time. You all had the power of investigation.
And we did.
Where was all that? On these reports, where was all that? The chairperson of the UNHRC on her report, 2 pages is about the war crimes and this thing. Yeah. The rest is all about what's happening now.
Exactly, yes.
Of course, because you all are burning bodies.
A co-sponsored decision that is sponsored by the government at the time.
Now he said,
then where were they back in the day?
It is interference in our
It's interference in governance. And that is what they also endorse. because
No,
they
we
want
don't
the country
endorse
to
that.
suffer from sanctions. They want the country to go through things.
Didn't the Prime Minister say that he wants to allow burials?
you can't-
Didn't the Prime Minister, I know for a fact, Chris, let me tell you one thing
Rehan,
very
don't
straight.
harp, don't dig graves now.
No,
Because
I'm not,
already
I'm not,
those
you're not
bodies
letting
have been
me,
allowed
no,
to be
no,
buried.
you're not letting me finish.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying
You're
is,
digging graves
what
now.
I'm saying is, you all have a racist
Shows
element in
how
your
bankrupt your political platform is.
No,
You all
listen.
first start, Dr. Sajid Premadasa said, give the people Placanil.
And then the IDH doctor says the same.
Then you all went on vaccines.
When
Then
did he
you all
say-
went on, see, lockdown.
But
Then
Chris,
you all
do you
said
agree-
open.
but
Samir,
do-
to
Chris,
all-
do you
all
agree
to
that the
fair,
vaccination
I want to
program
raise
is
Samir.
Bayesh,
Why-
give me a
then-
give me a
then
second.
why is
Because
there
if I
health
don't put
officials?
this into proper direction, then we'll have a problem. We all will be arguing with each other, and people wouldn't know what you're talking about. So, do you agree that the vaccination program was flawed?
Flawed.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Why is the flaw in the vaccination program?
So, do you think that those above 60 years of age got the vaccine?
Shamit, it's based on availability and how we are
It's not.
catering
It's
to it.
not based on availability.
Politicians who also given the vaccination, Chris, when they said that the most vulnerable people will be given the vaccination. What was the
From
No,
Like
the logic was that between 30 to 60 is a population that is most mobile.
Most mobile.
So you wanted to vaccinate that population because they move the most.
But there was a
So-
website
so-
that was there was a website that came into play. Are you aware, Pradeep? There was a
Now,
website
Colombo
you
is
can
running through
register.
channel
which
system
were each, now we are doing it through
They're
each channel.
Yeah, now through e-channeling.
So then we decided that 30 and above, not 30, 60, but open it to above 60s as well. And now we are only doing 60s because the vaccine, the doses of vaccine we have got has been specifically sent for 60 and above. So that's why the 60 and above is being done
But the
today.
entire process was flawed because those who were
No, not
Chris,
flawed. I think the system, the problem with
Favored.
the system was that it was a very archaic. It was first come first serve basis, right? So if you rushed and you went in at 4 o'clock, you got your vaccine. If you went at 9 o'clock, you ended up playing.
The method for distributing the COVID vaccine was the same method that the Ayurvedic doctor Dhammika had for distributing his Spaniard.
First
That
come
was the same
first serve.
system, first come first
Well,
serve.
then-
And he got the shot after
And
that.
this.
Yes.
The invent of the penny
Unfortunately,
that
we
Derma promoted.
didn't have a
Sorry,
database.
You can't mention.
Sorry.
Samir, the problem is this: the government has,
Sorry.
Pradeep,
Oh, God.
government has
We
failed to
didn't-
sign the second contract with India, right? They are not going to give us the COVAX. They signed the first contract, but they missed the bus and they didn't sign the second contract. Now, what is going to happen?
No,
right?
not that they didn't sign
No,
the second. No, not signed.
No,
the
they
second
have
one.
not signed
No,
for
they
it. Why
paid
do
for
I
the
sign?
second contract.
Paid.
They already paid money for the
Who
second.
paid? Government.
We have
Government
we
has
have
paid.
Why
paid
does
for
government
we have
ministry
paid
did
for
and
10
all
million
that?
vials.
No, I'll tell you what happened. They signed the first contract and they pleaded and they took it from India, 500,000 or 500,000 packs of vaccine. Then the second agreement they could have signed. They must sign to get the second lot. They didn't do
Second
it
lot we
deliberately.
got
You know
from the
why?
COVAX
They want to
program, we
get
got
from
the second lot.
Russia and China.
240,000
these are
vials
conspiracy
came in last
theories.
year
Second
through
contract.
the
You only
COVAX
signed
program.
No, you
You're
only
sadly
signed the second
mistaken.
one.
That's-
Please,
that's-
Don't drag India and AstraZeneca over the COVAX. COVAX is a totally different program. You're misleading. Don't
Right,
mislead.
right.
This
Just
is the
to
truth.
just to
And you all are going to
lambaste.
buy it from China and Russia,
Yeah, you know-
and government is going to give it to a private party.
Bayesh.
There are 3 businessmen who are close to the government, and they are going to import this vaccine from China. Please, you mark my
Bayesh,
word.
Bayesh,
This is
Bayesh,
going to happen.
As with the Chinese vaccine, let me say, because
No, but why
I'm
did
very
you
much
sign
involved
the
with the
free one?
with the
When
discussion
the
with
world is
regard to
giving
that.
them free, they are going to buy. Oh my
China
God.
promised to give us
Hideous.
300,000 vaccines. Okay, the government has already purchased paid for 10 million vaccines. We are yet to pay for another 8 million vaccines. Okay, Chinese vaccines and also the Sputnik vaccine, Sputnik 5 vaccine, which will come out by next week. We are hoping to get the approvals out by next week and start that also. So this is just
So, Chris, park that notion aside. You don't have to respond to everything that Mahesh says. Or you don't have to
I'm
respond to
saying
everything that
it's just how
Rehan says.
bankrupt.
You
It's
can,
just how
you can
bankrupt
do
they
that.
are.
So,
you know,
Chris,
Times, all
I
these
just want
papers
to
are-
I just want to talk about you spoke about Donald Trump and how patriotic the president is. Why isn't that the president's brother Basil Rajapaksa, who is now in the spotlight to contest an election in the coming few years in Sri Lanka? Why hasn't he given up his U.S. citizenship? Just a question. I just want to know. If he's so patriotic, if this family of Rajapaksas are so patriotic about the country,
didn't
they
the
want to
president
stick
give
in the
up
country.
his? Didn't the president give up his?
The president had to know,
The
otherwise he
president had to
contest.
know to contest elections.
But then,
But now through the new 20th Amendment to the Constitution, you don't have to do it. But if Basil Rajapaksa is so patriotic about Sri Lanka, if he's so patriotic about the country, why not give it up?
no, so Basil Rajapaksa is
That's
not in a
a
political
personal
front.
choice.
No?
Where is he?
Really, he's not.
He's
So
not.
he's not calling any shots.
He is not elected
as
member,
for
but he is
national-
under the
No,
National
you have to
political-
now see. You just said
Right,
before
okay.
that you want to interrupt, but you are not letting Chris
I think
talk.
that's,
Sorry,
a, that's a
won't
personal
interrupt.
choice, I think, because I don't think that provides any obstruction to him working for his country, and I don't think that
Because we are talking about
removes his love for his
patriotism, we are talking about nationalistic rhetorics. That's why I'm
No,
asking.
no,
this
why-
question.
I said,
Yeah, but-
what I said was once a government like that comes in, Mahinda Rajapaksa is not a dual citizen. And he did not take any side. He finished the war. You know, he sent Prabhakar in a body bag. And did not bow his head down to the international community.
But Basil Rajapaksa does not have to give away
Okay.
his citizenship.
So Basil Rajapaksa, once he comes,
But the problem is,
if the necessity
the question
arises
is-
where
I
Basil
don't
Rajapaksa
understand
should come
the question. I think
to a political front, then definitely yes, there might be a possibility that he
They
will.
changed the
have
constitution to
That's
entertain
his
Basil
choice.
Rajapaksa.
That's
but,
his
but,
choice.
but the constitution
Even a
was
toddler can
changed.
understand that.
Was changed to accommodate such requests in the
That was
future.
a
So I think that if it
No,
gets
the
in the way
assumption
of
is
it
there.
working for the country, then he will take that choice, just like
It is in the
President Gotabaya had to
Constitution.
take that choice.
Entrance clause, my
It
brother.
didn't stop him from working for the
that was
country.
changed by you all. No?
No, oh my God, we changed it. Dual citizenship. It was y'all. 20th Amendment to the Constitution says a dual citizen can apply. You know the danger. You know the danger. Again, I am marking certain milestones in the next 3-4 years. Right? There are some people. There are actual LTTS who have got dual citizenship are going to come into politics. Right? Under this dual citizenship allowance. So under this dual citizenship arrangement, Chris, you all did a crime. You know, you're a young man, right? Your heart says it was a mistake. That thing was done to entertain Basil Rajapaksa. SLPS in my
No,
electorate, they are
that's
my
just
friends.
assumptions.
Not assumption.
Has
So
Basil
why did you
Rajapaksa come into
introduce?
parliament?
Why did you introduce dual citizenship?
No, they brought
Why
this
did
whole
you-
thing saying that, you know, Basil, it's all guidance for this. You're assuming.
Okay, my question, why did you all introduce that?
You
Why
should
did you all-
stop assuming,
Okay,
get
not
down to
assumption,
grass
okay,
level
okay,
in
this is a
your
presumption. No,
area
presumption.
and start working to
Chris,
get back the
tell
popularity
me
of the
why
people
did you-
without
Chris,
making assumptions. You're just assuming.
Chris, why did you all introduce an amendment to the Constitution allowing dual citizens to contest an election, parliament election? You tell me why. Now Pradeep said, any dual citizen to serve the country, we should allow. Yes, of course, we should allow. But this is not the time dual citizens be given the chance to contest a national election. Remember, some of the section of the population or the voters can be bought by money. Now we looked at in Kandy, everywhere, maybe in Valigam, everywhere, before the general elections, what they did was they doled out funds. They gave relief. Innocent people, they don't have anything to eat. So what they did, gave the
So
5,000.
gentlemen, we have to go for a short commercial break,
Right.
and then we'll come to the final round. But in the final round, I want you all to give room for each speaker to have his say, not interrupt. It will be a 3-minute uninterrupted time frame for each speaker. So please respect that in the final round. So we're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's Face the Nation. Stay connected, stay with us. We will be right back.
COVID-19 සඳහා ආරක්ෂිත පියවර නිතරම හොඳින් සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න. සබන් හෝ විසබීජනාශක මධ්‍යසාරයක් භාවිතා කර දෑත් පිරිසිදු කරන්න. සැමවිටම අන් අය සමග මීටරයක දුරස්ථභාවයක් පවත්වා ගන්න. හැකි සෑම විටම නිවසේ රැඳී සිටින්න. නිරතුරුවම නිවැරදිව මුඛාවරණ පළඳින්න.
We're stronger together.
මානව සංහතියේ සුඳුරුතම දායාදී වූ ගැහැණිය මිනිසුන්ගේ ජීවිතය ජීවත් කරන්නට යෙදෙන නොනිමි ආත්මීය කැපකිරීම වෙනුවෙන් දිරිය ගැහැණුන්ගේ සමාජාගමනය දිගැස
Welcome back. It's Face the Nation, the final round. We start off the final round with Chris Balthazar, Municipal Councillor, Devali Mountain Municipal Council. The time starts now.
Thank you, Shamir.
No interruptions, please. Again, I just want to mention it to the panelists and then we can start. Yes.
Well, I think it was a good show today, and I would like to go back on to what we spoke about. I think we spoke about some sentiments of the people, where the religious sentiments and things like that. And I also would like to say, if I have said anything wrong to hurt someone's feelings, I'm definitely sorry about it. But I have to stand by what we have decided and how we go on. And also this government has progressively come on over the time. Within a short period of 1.5 years, Shamir, most of the things that the government has done, we don't harp and we don't show out, we don't elaborate like the previous time we were there, and also like the previous government did. Talking about national housing, more than 14,000, now close upon 25,000 houses, 100,000 kilometers of roadways, highway extensions, railway extensions, lots of development programs that's happening within the country. And also you take the monies that's going into this, the large development. We saw in the previous regime where lots of money, even the harbour, Hambantota harbour sale money, what happened to that money, that is all questionable. But now, Shamir, we see, despite all this, despite the corona vaccine, despite all these criticisms, despite the opposition's task on trying to bring us down, we've still been able to develop and we've still been able to give back to the people. And, collectively, it's I think the best time that the SJB and the UMP, especially the UMP, focused on trying to get back to their grassroots levels and organizing their grassroots levels, rather than trying to teach a government of this magnitude, holding such a strong system with a two-thirds majority of the people being elected to come forward. And we run by our promises, and we have kept to our promises. So I hope thank you for teaching us and guiding us through this, but we hope that in time to come we'll be able to reach out more to the people, and once COVID is done for, definitely go out for our goals and not have drawbacks, and we won't be playing the blame game any longer like the previous did.
Thank you very much, Chris Balthazar. We now move our attention to Mahesh Ranayaka, representative of the United National Party.
Thank you very much, Shamir. We discussed a few important issues today. Starting from sugar scam to deforestation to UNHRC. Now sugar scam, we know it's 15.9 billion. We are talking about only the loss of revenue to the government, but it is yet to calculate the loss to Satosa, because Satosa bought sugar at a higher rate from this particular vendor, and they subsidize to the public. So there is a loss to Satosa, that is also public money. I would like to at this juncture throw a challenge to opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. I have seen some of his leaders have mentioned Sajat Mauzoon as the culprit, or as the man behind this sugar scam. But
very quickly, I want to interrupt you there. Mahesh, you have to take responsibility for the statements that you are making.
Yes.
And I assume that you are doing that with concrete evidence.
I mean, everybody talks about his name. So my challenge to Mr. Sajith Premadasa is that without using his MPs, he as the responsible opposition leader, he must mention the names.
He did today.
He must, Ron, I'm just throwing him a challenge. He must mention the names. That's number one challenge to Sajith Premadasa. Then I would also throw a challenge to him, in the event government loses 2/3 majority, that he should give a guarantee. Is he in a position to give a guarantee that no SJB MP would cross over to government? Because Sajith Premadasa did two historical mistakes. One is he divided a grand old political party which was the base of the country, right? And he allowed 8 of his people to go and vote for 2/3 majority. I don't think he can alienate himself from that crime. Otherwise, this government wouldn't have got 2/3 majority unless they buy MPs. So that's two challenges. Maybe you can tell your leader, right? And apart from that, now UNHRC resolution is going to be contested or going to be presented on 22nd of March or maybe 23rd, maybe 5 days after this. Now the government can't alienate itself from the responsibility, because it is the government who has to interact with the international community. It's not the people who are not in parliament, or it's not the civil society who has to go and negotiate with the international community, because in the UNHRC resolution, apart from the initial allegations or initial concerned areas, they have mentioned particularly the human rights violation, freedom of speech, and deep militarization of the civil public administration. So those are the new elements that has come into UNHRC. These resolutions are not to kill us, but since the government can't look into the interest of the Sri Lankans living in Sri Lanka, international community has taken a step. I said during this discussion that government has destroyed two types of diversity: diversity of the people and diversity of the country. Now this needs to be restored. How could that happen? The nearest election that is going to take place is provincial council election, so people should take a decision. Rather than voting in a family or voting in a group of people who worship a family, they must elect representatives from democratic liberal camp, in which case I believe United National Party is the foremost party with the experience. Otherwise this country will not any longer be a democratic country the way that we are doing things. And finally, I believe that the people have begun to realize the mistake that they have done without any knowledge by giving a 2/3 majority and giving massive powers to the current government. The current government presidency 1.5 years, the government is near a year. They have committed all the possible blunders a government on earth would do, and I don't think that they will reverse. They can't reverse. When a government into 6 months can't perform, that means they have lost the public faith and they cannot anymore endure. Provincial council elections, if they are doing it, we are not against it, but again we are saying, first sort out the COVID matter. Please do not make COVID another item for your political expediency, which you blatantly did at the 2020 general elections. And please do not insult Sinhala Buddhist. All the time you all are taking Sinhala Buddhist on a ride. I am a Sinhala Buddhist. You all promise Sinhala Buddhist, single only government, but the justice minister is a Muslim lawyer. This country's majority of people are not chauvinist, we are not racist, but you all are taking Sinhala Buddhist on a ride. Majority are being taken on a ride by the Rajapaksa regime. Therefore, I request Chris, please tell your leaders, and I request the public to open your eyes and ears and be vigilant, because we all have to get together to protect this country and rescue this country from this regime.
Mahesh Ranaka, representative of the United National Party. Pradeep Jayawardene, the Municipal Council of Colombo.
Thank you, Shamir. I think I'd like to start talking a little bit about the provincial council elections that are coming up, because I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of discussion about the value or the lack of value of the provincial council system. We have had 25 years of experience with the provincial council system, and there have been difficulties, but there have been also many successes. And if you realize that the devolution of power into the provinces has actually provided a much better solution for many parts of our society, especially in some of the north and the east, the communities where minority communities live. If you take the provincial council system, as you know, the difficulty has been the sharing of power between the province and the government. There are 3 lists we have. We have the provincial list, we have the concurrent list, and we have the reserve list. So there has been a lot of debate, and sometimes the responsibilities have crossed over. So these things have to be resolved, and a restructuring of the entire provincial council system and the network and the levels of government has to take place. If you realize that the central government has a very grassroots level through the divisional secretaries and right down to the Grama Niladaris, whereas the provincial council doesn't have that kind of a structure. So all these have to be resolved as part of the provincial council exercise, and I think we solely need the provincial councils to be back in place, and I feel that a lot of the difficulties that this country is facing right now is because the provincial councils are not there, and the public representation is not there, and the people's voice is not being heard by the central government. So that's, I think, very important for us. On the UNHRC, I think Mahesh spoke quite a lot about it. My view is that I'm taking the middle path. On one side, we had a government that completely rejected everything that the UNHRC had. This was the government we had early days of the Mahinda Rajapaksa government, and then we had a government that went and signed up on a co-sponsorship of everything that the UNHRC threw at us. We have to tread a middle ground there, because we cannot accept everything that the UNHRC tells us, but we have to deal with it. We have many people who say that this is a violation of our sovereignty. Yes, it is a violation of sovereignty, but that is what the world is today. Powerful countries violate the sovereignty of other countries, and it's normal. It is the done thing today. So we have to be able to deal with it. We have to be able to deal with the foreign countries. We have to be able to answer all the questions that are being asked. So this government, I see their response to the UNHRC, the report of the Commissioner, of the High Commissioner, and I think that is the first step. So we have to be able to deal with every single allegation and respond to that, while not accepting what they are saying. So I think that is a step in the right direction, and I believe that we can take the UNHRC on, and I don't think we are even close to sanctions. We are still a long way from sanctions, and we should not be fearful of going to ICC or any of those institutions. We are still very far away from it. So this government has still friends in the international community, and they are dealing with them, and I think we can respond to UNHRC very effectively.
Thank you very much.
Right. One more thing on the Mahesh's question about the team, or the building of the JRJ team, and he compared with Ranil Wickremesinghe, and I must respond to that. JRJ built a team, a very, very strong team, and part of that team, some of the team members were better than him in many of the areas. If you take finance, if you take sometimes foreign relations, in some areas economics, in other areas grassroots level, he had members who were more powerful, stronger, and had better ability than him. He was able to harness, handpick and harness a team like that. That is why he built the most powerful government this country has ever had from 1978. Right? Ranil Wickremesinghe does the exact opposite. He doesn't build a team; he destroys the team. He right, and ends up today. The proof is there.
He can rebut.
The proof is there today, where the UNP has lost.
Yeah.
He can't even put one member in parliament. It's only a bonus seat. Couldn't win a single seat. Right. I mean, that is a disaster for this country. Actually.
Thank you very much. So thanks a lot. No, that's he can rebut any points that you brought in. If you want to speak about it, you should have spoken about it earlier. But he has all the right to know. He has all the right to rebut. I now move to Rehan Jayawickrama, Chairman of the Valigaon Urban Council.
First of all, I'm honoured to be part of this panel. J.R. Jayawardena's grandson, a very talented politician, who the reason he is in the SLFP today is, I can safely tell you, is because of the fact that Ranil Wickremesinghe did sideline him, and it's a common known secret. The reason Chris is not with the UMP is also because of Ranil Wickremesinghe, and that itself shows a certain amount of the leadership traits of Ranil Wickremesinghe. Also, I was not going to touch on him because I don't want to touch on people that I got more votes than. They didn't even count their votes. And when Mahesh spoke about the team that J.R. Jayawardena created, and what Pradeep said was two contrasting things, because J.R. Jayawardena groomed Lalit for leadership roles, groomed Gamini, but where in history does it show that he had even once groomed Ranil Wickremesinghe? Tell me one instance. There has not been even one instance. And leaders like Gamini, Lalit and Ranjan had to die for Ranil Wickremesinghe to be appointed as the leader of the UMP. So it was by chance he became.
No, Mahesh, I said you can't.
And also, since Mahesh threw a challenge at my leader, I want to challenge your leader to first of all appoint his nationalist MP, number one. The second thing, please explain to the public Why? Now you said, Mahesh, there was a 50-50. You said there was a split. How can there be a split when a split is generally 50-50 or 50-30 or 70-30? You all got 0 seats in this parliament. What does that show you? It shows that people believed in Sajith Premadasa. They believed in his leadership. They actually believed in any other leader other than Ranil Wickremesinghe. So what I'm saying is, there is, for me personally, I will not, the same way I wrote a letter asking the leadership to be given to Sajith, there is no chance that I will be personally part of a mechanism that is going to have his leader involved. Because
no, Mahesh, this is not fair. You have to let Rehan speak.
And how can you talk about democracy within the party when you lose the election in the magnitude that you lost the election and you still do not resign? Why is he not resigning? Why is he not giving it to Ruwan? Why is he not giving it to anyone? Why? Why has he done this from 1994? Why has he always lost elections? And what did Sajith do? What did what Sajith has done?
Mahesh, there has to be some sort of decorum here. See, one thing is, when I started off the final round, I said no interruption. So you have to respect Rehan's whatever Rehan is saying, and then bite the bullet and wait for the moment. Yes.
And the last thing that I want to say is that how can you preach democracy? But my end thing is that I wish this government the best, because I don't want sanctions on this country, and I don't think Chris and Pradeep want it either. We should tread carefully, because what I felt after talking to Chris was that Chris and Pradeep both did not seem to agree with forced cremations or the other issues that are going, because Chris is a minority councillor and he needs the minority support. So as long as we can go on the correct track, and if everyone, Mahesh, including Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mahinda Rajapaksa, the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Maithripala Sirisena, Sajith Premadasa, let's all get together and stop deforestation to start off with. Let's stop racism in this country, because we cannot afford to start another war, and we cannot afford to start another war with the second biggest population and the second biggest religion in the world. We cannot do that. We cannot mess with the likes of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. We cannot continue doing this. So we are wishing everyone on this panel the best of luck at the upcoming provincial council election. I think one more thing, let me end it by saying the only reason we were interrupting each other was not out of animosity, is because we are all passionate about what we speak about. Right. So I'm very sorry that we had to interrupt you, and I interrupted you.
Thanks a lot, Rehan. That's fine. All taken in the right spirit. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining us this evening. Pradeep, nice to have you on board. Rehan, as well as Mahesh, for joining us this evening on Face the Nation. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Azra and Nisal, for joining us as journalists today. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. Slow success builds character. Fast success builds ego. Take care and good night.
COVID-19 සඳහා ආරක්ෂිත පියවර. ජනයා වැඩි වශයෙන් සිටින ස්ථානයන්හි ගැවසීම මගහරින්න. රෝගය ආසාදිත පුද්ගලයන් හමුවීමට නොයන්න. මුහුණ, මුඛය, නාසය සහ ඇස් ඇල්ලීමෙන් වළකින්න. අනවශ්‍ය ගමන් බිමන් යෑමෙන් වළකින්න. මුඛාවරණය ඉදිරිපස ඇල්ලීමෙන් වළකින්න.
Whoa, we're stronger together.